Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 218 of the Warhammer podcast, known as Look Out Sir. My name's Dan, and I'm joined as ever by Phil. How you doing, mate? How's life? You good?
I'm very good, thank you.
Yeah? What have you been up to lately? What's been going on? You're going to No Retreat, aren't you, again?
I'm going to No Retreat in about a month's time. It's the start of October, so I'm making some Thunder Warriors.
Ooh, what kind of flavour of Thunder Warriors? Which are custodies for people who don't follow Phil at Beyond the Tabletop on Instagram?
Yes, that is true. So yeah, they are Custodes proxies. These are Ventari proxies, which are Thunder Warriors with jump packs, basically.
It's pretty sexy. You're going with the, what was it?
The speary type.
It was the spear one, because they've got gun and buckler thing, haven't they? And then spears. Yeah.
Basically, I had already sourced the parts I needed for the sort of spear conversion that I was going to do, whereas I didn't have the pistols and swords, and shields. So I basically was like, I'll do these ones now. My plan is to ideally have a 6-man squad of both, potentially. Yeah. Definitely I'd like 3 of each, because they're 3-man units, for clarification. But for now, I'll just do 1 unit of 3 men, which is the bare minimum. But it does mean I'm just not rocking up again with the same army, which I'd feel a bit bad about, because everyone puts effort into this event. This is their last 40k one they're doing as well, because they're now a Horus Heresy channel, which is SM Battle Reports on YouTube.
Yes,
they run these events normally once a year. They do a Heresy one as well, which will carry on, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's only 1 unit, right? Because you've got some time constraints, although we can't talk about the kind of time constraints, can we? I don't need to. It's fine. Don't worry about it. He's got very little time.
I've got very little time in a month. But I've been doing it for about a week so far, as much as I can do. So I'm mostly there. I'm currently just doing the legs on the models, and then I've got to attach the arms and attach the jump packs, and then doing a nice sort of rubbly base, and then they're ready for painting. So if I can get to the undercoated stage by the weekend, which is in a couple of days' time, I'll be quite happy. But yeah, I'm definitely rushing these a little bit in comparison to the time I would normally spend on them. So I just need to get them done. I need to embrace my inner Dan. just get them done.
It's more Richie, I'd say, than Dan.
That is fair. Yeah.
But so anyways, so in episode 218, what are we going to talk about, Phil?
We are talking about the Leagues of Votann Codex.
That's it. And then
I was going to say, was there anything you wanted to say? What have you been up to, Dan?
Oh God, I mean, just getting on with life in the general sense of the moment.
Any hobbying? Yeah,
bits and pieces. I've been mostly working on Skaven for Age of Sigmar, so I'm going to be taking the Fangled Mutated Menagerie, I think is its full title. So it's an army of renown that Skaven have access to, that lean into its Moulder units. So those are Rat Ogres, Storm Fiends, Hell Pit Abominations. So yeah, leaning into that. Tested it last night down at the ETS, the Egham Tabletop Society. Played a doubles game with a couple of the lads, or a few of the lads from the club. The big unit of 6 Storm Fiends, when they've been bolstered by the Moulder ability, is pretty nutty. So that was good data for how that's going to go.
Was this practice for your doubles event of Warhammer Mould with Richie?
With Joe. Me and Joe are coupling up, yeah. So I was getting in a few games for that. And then Spike, actually, who's going to the 40k doubles, has asked me to double up with him for that. So I'm talking to the wife at the moment about justifying my ability to go along to that as well.
Yeah, because that's the following weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just money though, man. That's the killer at the moment. Money is crazy, isn't it? It's like there's never enough of it.
Games Workshop's not cheap. Games Workshop has gone up in price. Well, will go up in price very shortly by 4%, didn't they say on it? Yeah, which is really something we should probably talk about. I think maybe we'll do a general ramble episode next time, because I can feel like this intro has already got the potential to become quite long.
It's already gone quite long. That Yeah, so, there we go. But yeah, look, honestly, thanks everyone for checking out the show. Obviously, massive thank you to the people who support us on Patreon. You guys are amazing, and if you'd like to support us on Patreon, please consider doing so. As I say, helps us out hugely. Also, there is merchandise. Check out the links below if you were interested in any of that. And then lastly, we obviously have to say thank you to the people who are kind enough to give us 5-star reviews. And we're going to move on to the 5-star review segment, which we've decided to stick at the front again before the main content. But we're not going to do the weird dance where I tell Phil to guess who's giving us the 5-star review. It's come by Daemon of the Ellipses, I suppose. Is that ellipses? The 3 dots?
3 dots ellipses.
Yeah. Demon of the Ellipses.
And wait, is it 3 dots or is it called ellipses?
No, it's 3 dots.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they come via way of Apple Podcasts of Great Britain. So we're going to do a transitional noise, end this outro, do the 5-star review, and then get on with the show. So yeah, transitional noise. So yeah, we said it already. This 5-star review has come via Apple Podcasts of Great Britain. Thank you very much to Daemon of the Ellipses, or ... Massively appreciate the fact that you took the time to give us this 5-star review. And obviously, if you would like to be like Daemon of the Ellipses, you need only give us a 5-star review in the places where they can be left, such as Apple Podcasts of Great Britain, which is where this one's come from. But you can also leave us 5-star reviews on Audible, on our Facebook page. Not that we really use that Facebook page anymore, really, but it doesn't hurt to spread the word in those spaces. So yeah, if you consider supporting us like Daemon of the Ellipses has, we'd be hugely appreciative of it, wouldn't we, Phil?
Oh, we would indeed.
Indeed. So, Daemon of the Ellipses says, a really good Warhammer 40k podcast, which I would... I think that's part of their gimmick.
I see.
Yeah, absolutely. That, or... the text was so long that Apple Podcasts of Great Britain has actually just shortened it, and this person actually has a name that isn't Daemon of the Ellipses. Maybe there is an actual demon bit. But for whatever reason, I can't click into it to expand it. And there isn't the option to click more on it.
So
normally,
maybe that is it.
Yeah, I think that is actually the gimmick. Anyway, a really good Warhammer 40k podcast, which I will... assuming the ellipses describe some kind of drooling after effects. Anyway, this is a really incredible podcast which gives all listeners a great and extensive update on 40k. Frank have repeatedly recommended this to many people. I think, yeah, okay. I think, well, I don't know what has gone with the text here. Let's assume he says, I have repeatedly recommended this to many people, and I hope that you keep doing this for many more years. And we hope so too, because we do really enjoy it, oddly. We haven't got sick of each other yet. We've had a few wobbles, but we're pretty good for
the we throw knives at each other a couple of times, but overall...
Yeah, but we don't intend to, we throw with an intention to miss.
If you say so.
Yeah, exactly. A glancing blow, not
a warning shot.
Yeah, warning shot. Never go for the torso or head,
No,
just the limbs, the soft,
exactly,
pliable limbs. But yeah, no, thank you, Daemon of the Ellipses, for your 5-star review. It's a beautiful one, and obviously appreciate you recommending us to whomever comes your way. That's super cool of you, and yeah, really appreciate it. But to elaborate on that more, it is of course Phil.
Well, thank you very much, Daemon of the ... Who knows where you are from? Could be anything, but Daemon of the Ellipses sounds even more mysterious, so we will go with that. Yeah, glad you're enjoying the show. Even gladder that you are recommending us to lots of other people. That is greatly appreciated. It is a thing everyone should be doing. Embrace your own inner demon from wherever that may come, and spread the good word of look out, sir.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to get on with Codex Votann. Cheers, everyone. Transitional noise. Hey all, we're podcasting again, as is evident, because, we're talking to you, and we've done the intro at this point, so, yeah, well done us. How are you, Phil? You all right, mate? Good day?
Yeah, business as usual.
Business as usual. We are back together in Phil's abode, recording collaboratively, this time with 2 microphones, so hopefully better audio quality all around, right, buddy?
Twice the fun.
Twice the fun. And we're going to be reviewing Codex Votann. the squats or dwarves or halflings, whatever they may be. What was the Tau name for the squats back in the day? Was it D something? No, what were they called?
There
was definitely a Tau denomination. They were the ones with the bone, with the rocky skin.
Yeah, I don't know if they were the Tau denomination, but you talking about the ones where they had, what was it, Battlefleet Gothic? They had ships there.
Yes, yeah, the Tau fleets, which were built by the Demogorgons or whatever they were called.
Demiurge.
Was it Demiurge? Yeah. That was it. That might have been it. There's always a great start to a podcast when you and I fail to remember kind of the most kind of rudimentary knowledge about. Yeah,
because that was the name that they were sort of retconned in terms of having post the squatting.
The squatting.
Of the squats, which for maybe new people that haven't heard what that was about. Basically, squats existed in, I think it was
Rogue Trader?
A little bit in Rogue Trader and a little bit in second edition.
But yeah, they were in the original Imperial Index or whatever it was called.
Yeah, they were quite closely tied to the Imperial Army, but they were sort of their own thing. And then I think in second edition they just got the freebie Index, which came out at the start of the edition, and then they didn't really know what to do with them. So after that they got rid of them. Back in those days they had big helmets, like big round helmets, had a lot of flak armour, and then you had exosuits, which was their version of Terminator armour, and some of those rode around on trikes. And they also had regular squats on trikes and bikes and stuff like that. But yeah, they disappeared, never to be seen again, hence the term squatting, which is now used to describe any faction that has been removed from the game.
Was it squatting or getting squatted?
Probably both.
Well, fair.
Whether
fair.
It's a past tense or current tense.
That's
probably.
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah, so the squats are back, but now they've been renamed Votann, but in that in-between time, they had a faction in Battlefleet Gothic, where it was the Demiurge.
That's it, yeah.
And they were sort of tangentially rumoured to be basically squats, but had a slightly new look, which I think they've sort of adopted some of those elements of here.
Yeah. There was a classic piece of actually quite lovely artwork that they did in the old squat Codex, which was like an image of all the different kind of kins, as it were. So they had like it's almost like an emblem symbol with all the different, types of squats shown next to each other. And for the life of me, I can't see it in this new Codex. I wonder whether, because they've kind of zeroed in on this new kind of NASA spaceman-esque kind of aesthetic that has kind of become the default, they've decided, you know what, we're no longer going to, promote imagery that showcases maybe the specialist games department's squat range by experts.
Right, yeah. I mean, I don't know if they ever did any, like, official artwork or if they were more like concept sketches, but I've definitely seen...
No, it was in the last Codex, mate. So in the last Codex, they had a really interesting image that showed all the different... Because that was the way they kind of explained it away, was that there were multiple different potential adaptations of the kin of the Votann. So they showed, you remember they had that image which was early on in 10th for where they had the images of all the different kind of like Xenosy alien things, and they had like, those giant brain creatures shooting lasers and those orbs that were seen in like the Astarte series
and the mushrooms with guns.
Yeah, the mushrooms with guns, all that kind of stuff. It was kind of in the similar vein to that.
Oh yes, I remember.
It was beautiful artwork.
That was very cool. Yeah, so that was modern artwork, but you're right, it's not in here. And what's interesting is you point out most codexes have retro artwork scattered throughout, and as you've just discovered, this has none. No. It is all modern. Some of the artwork is brilliant. As we mentioned, we previously did a ranking the Votann episode 2 episodes ago, and then we did say the next episode would be Leagues of Votann, and we were clearly liars because we didn't do that. But in that episode, I talked about the brilliant artwork in the first few pages of these great, cool, very angular, sort of floating land ships, which look amazing. And that artwork in here is phenomenal. So I do sort of highly rate some of the artwork in this book. And also, moving on to it, the cover.
Yeah, the cover is good. I mean, to touch on the artwork, though, as well, I mean, there's some beautiful bits in here, and I think actually there's a lot of imagery and elements that are really kind of evocative of something that feels like missed potential currently within this range. Like, I especially love this double-page spread here of the... I'm not sure which... or what that particular type of Votann is called, but it's ones in red armor, and you can see these images in the background of like banners with effigies of like boar heads and goat heads and things like that, and that's the kind of symbolism and the sort of like kind of more I suppose sort of artistic, more kind of I suppose more kind of Napoleonic-esque sort of, or more kind of medieval style warfare that I love about the 40k setting. I think, and is missing from the range, to be fair. I think, if Votann leaned more into having some of those more kind of ancestral, sort of awesome, kind of more spiritual, symbol-esque elements. I know, obviously, they have them within the kind of range with the way that they adorn themselves with all their different kind of... I suppose headdresses or whatever you want to call them, but yeah, elements that are depicted within the artwork are definitely not fully realised within the range, and I think, as is inevitably the case with this, because I guess GW were relatively, or the studio team were relatively rushed to get something out the door the first time around, it probably was, and certainly felt at the time, quite half-baked, and now clearly with more time, they've spent more time obviously defining, working on developing what this range is going to be going forwards, and I think you're starting to see the fruits of that labour as the artwork starts to depict something that, in my opinion, the model range doesn't necessarily fulfil the promise on. But hopefully, you never know, right? As time goes by.
I do find that often the way that the artwork looks somewhat better than the models, and potentially that's just because everything's scaled a bit more proportionally, whereas the models are often like this hero scale where things do have to be a little bit oversized. I remember the Rogel Dawn tank in the artwork looks fantastic, but is a terrible model in and of itself.
Too small.
And there's plenty of other examples of that. The artwork in this book's really good. They do a good job of breaking down all the different sort of sub-factions, the conglomerates of the different businesses, for want of a better word. The red ones, Ymir conglomerates, by the looks of it.
Yes, the old Ymir conglomerate.
So they've got, great, like, little artwork of, like, colour profiles, very reminiscent of the Forge World ones. So that's really great to see. They've got great breakdowns of all the different weapon types. And really cool images for those. So if you're new to the faction, they've got tons of different weapons that are kind of unique to the setting. So it's good that they sort of illustrate them all, so you actually know what people are meant to be armed with, because quite often that's not clear. Though usually at the very back of the book they do a sort of in-game version of that as well, where they do actual photos. So let's see if that is here. I've always thought it was right about, maybe it's just before the Crusade bit.
Yeah, it's like they do like the painting guides and bits and pieces. Have they not done that in this one?
Not in this one, or if it is, it's not there. Which is a bit of a shame, because they're normally pretty good on it. But then I guess they've got the illustrated version, so maybe they don't feel the need to add it in. And it doesn't seem to be in front of the combat patrol bit either. So odd. That's a bit strange, a bit disappointing. Minus points there, because that's always quite handy from a modelling perspective. But I guess the illustrated version sort of does the job. Yeah,
that's it. I mean, talking about the cover, which you were going to talk about, and we just sort of sidelined into something else briefly there. But yeah, look, I mean, it's actually a really beautiful cover. I think one of the things that really does it credit when you see it in person is the vividness and the kind of richness and depth of colour. Like, I think the way that they've actually kind of implemented some of the more kind of varnishy elements to really kind of make the hero kind of stand out. Actually works really nicely here with this particular color palette. And again, it's that classic kind of simple kind of pose of a really heroic bearing in a very kind of powerful position, framed by kind of the sort of ridges of these tyrannic or tyrannid kind of spires, as it were, with a bunch of gargoyles flying around above him. It's just a really beautiful piece of artwork, to be fair. It's very, very strong. I think the only real kind of weak spot that I would throw at it is the Ironkin kind of automaton geezer in the foreground ahead of the fallen Carnifex hide. It's a bit sort of just completely sort of unnecessary almost, because it's just this very weird kind of plain image and character in the foreground.
Right. Do you know what? I couldn't even see the shape of it, but now I see the head because it's sort of engulfed in darkness. Yeah, it's just not really much of anything. It could be pure black and people wouldn't know otherwise.
It's a nothing burger, as they like to say. It's sort of like, and it's weird because obviously none of the sort of Votann that are clearly visible within the imagery are themselves the Ironkin. They're all just obviously regular kin, the kind of dwarves. I mean, maybe the geezer in the helmet could be Ironkin, although typically the Ironkin are on display because of their kind of, metallic, kind of Mysterio-esque glass dome.
Heads,
yeah, but it seems almost like they were like, oh, you forgot to put an Ironkin in it, shove one in the foreground, and it's weird. It's just like a big zit in the bottom left-hand corner that makes no sense.
Yeah, it's a little bit odd. Normally, the guys at the front tend to be quite detailed and quite clear, but I think because of the lighting, they've decided to sort of put that in darkness. It's a very kind of OSL style model, right? It's as if it's, when you see those kind of neon style paint schemes where they do a zenithal highlight of like a blue on one side and then a bright red on the other side. So it's like really contrasting colours, like it's in a nightclub disco minis. It's basically that, but it also works really well. So it looks very cool.
Yeah, they've done well with it. I think it's a really, actually very nice cover, and certainly some of the artwork inside is really cool. And I think, ultimately you can tell that GW have put some muscle behind kind of bulking out the suite of, imagery and creativity behind the kind of Votann. And you can't fault GW really for the way that they work with artists and build their worlds. I feel like Votann still feel a little bit underbaked, but they're definitely moving in the same in the right direction. And ultimately they can't really obviously compete with the kind of history and depth of character and flavour that's been obviously added to things like Space Marines or Eldari or whatever over the years. Also, by the way, that piece of artwork of Burry, what's his chops, the Nid geezer facing off against a massive Hive Tyrant.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, it's like a supersized Hive Tyrant.
The only thing that's weird about it, actually, though, is I think the kind of silhouette, or rather the kind of framing of the image is super amazing. But it's weird because he's wearing the Nid gear. It just looks like a little Nid.
Yes.
A little weird, deformed Nid has picked a fight.
His mother.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's sort of, you have to have a kind of degree of kind of contextual knowledge to understand what's going on there. I think if the hero wasn't adorning the same kind of gear as the thing it was fighting against, it might kind of be more immediately obvious to the viewer. But obviously we as informed viewers are going to have a sort of understanding of what we're looking at there. But anyway, the artwork's really nice. Truth be told, I haven't really spent nearly enough time diving into the updated lore of the Votann. That's something I'll endeavour to become better acquainted with, because, as I've said many times, Votann are actually the only thing in Warhammer 40,000 that I can't instinctively tell you much about, other than they used to be squats, and that they are a bunch of different types of dwarves under one particular kind of AI-driven kind of faction entity thing, and that they live in a society where robots and, flesh and blood kin exist collaboratively. But beyond that, I'm relatively unknowledgeable about, what they are. And I think now that they're a second book in, theoretically, they will hopefully have been establishing that better. So it's probably about time to start learning what the heck is going on with Votann.
Well, that's true. Yeah, beyond the fact that they're basically like space businessmen, right? They're all prospectors going out there doing mining and stuff like that, and it's all about claiming your land and extracting the wealth and resources for themselves. So.
They're opening McDonald's franchises all over the Imperial.
Peak space capitalism,
well,
basically. But then they still sort of, have a somewhat hippie coexistence with their AI kin, their brothers.
Absolutely. Can't we all just get along?
Exactly.
That's it. Look, I mean, obviously the army before... used to use a system of kind of grudges. Again, Votann, when they first came out towards the end of 9th edition, were notoriously really strong. Again, a lot of people obviously assert, and I think correctly so, that GW can sometimes be in the habit of overbaking. Oh, there you go. We've got painting guides here, but no weapons.
Which is, a little bit unusual.
A little bit unusual.
That's very AOS style, but I can't remember if the other 40... I think
the other 40Ks have got painting guides, but I thought weapon things were in close proximity to the painting guides, but maybe they're not. Anyway, sorry, I derailed. The point is Votann have had a history of being quite strong.
Yeah.
They've not been particularly strong throughout the span of 10th edition, but I hear on the grapevine, not that I've played against them myself, but the people who know that kind of thing do say that this particular Votann book isn't too bad. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily the strongest thing ever, based on what I'm hearing, but it certainly has received some nice updates. Well, that is the vibe.
That's good. At least it's not Games Workshop coming out and apologising because it's too good and they're going to have to completely...
Oh, God, yeah, that old thing. That was crazy, wasn't it, when they did the James Workshop video where he was going, yes, I want them to have 200 damage, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That was quite fun back in the day.
So that was, 9th ed Votann Codex.
But... yeah, this doesn't seem too crazy. I've heard from the people who have been playing it that the Imperial Knights book, the new Imperial Knights book, is quite something.
In a good way?
In the way that the new Defender, is it? The guy with the plasma cannons and the void shield and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty tasty. Spicy meatball.
Oh, interesting. I mean, here's the thing. The Index... I guess was at least doing very well for Imperial Knights. The book would have been written when they were still quite good, and then the points have been adjusted to try and nerf the army down a little bit. Same with Chaos Knights. So, I can see the correlation of, they will be good because they were written when the Index was written, I would assume.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
But when they came out at 9th, they had a bunch of rules that essentially removed the necessity to roll wounds, right? Like it was all basically, have you hit it? Cool. You've wounded it. Move on. And this was obviously in an edition where lethal hits wasn't just a kind of baked-in mechanic within the game, or at least not as prolifically so. So definitely people early doors with Votann in 9th were very kind of like, ooh, good God, this is a bit much. And then they probably weren't ever really able to come up with a system that really kind of did them justice, so to speak, throughout 10th. Although they've never been, well, they were quite bad at the start, but that's early 10th edition, which was a bit of a dark time. But throughout the span of 10th, they've not been egregiously awful. They just haven't been the strongest, it's like they've been sort of meh the whole time. But yeah, it seems like they've got a lot of words to talk about their army rules. So they've got prioritized efficiency and yield points, and some hostile acquisitions and fortify takeover. So a bunch of different words. Which one of those do you want to start with, Phil? You may as well do prioritized efficiency.
Sure. So if your army faction is Leagues of Votann, Leagues of Votann units from your army have one of two abilities: hostile acquisition or fortify takeover. See below. During the battle, which ability those Leagues of Votann units have will depend on how many yield points, YP for short, you currently have. So then there's 3 bullet points. At the start of a battle, your units have hostile acquisition until the start of your next command phase. So hostile acquisition is when they start. That's straightforward. At the end of your command phase, if you have fewer than 7 YP, your yield points, your units have hostile acquisition until the start of your next command phase. And at the end of your command phase, if you have 7 YP or more, your units have fortified takeover until the start of your next command phase. So you start on hostile acquisition, you stay on that until you are basically over 7 yield points, whatever they mean. You then are on fortified takeover.
Well, it says here yield points specifically. So at the end of each player's command phase, you gain 1 YP, 1 YIP, if you control 1 or more objective marker within your deployment zone. And from the second battle round onwards, you gain 1 additional YIP for each of the following conditions you satisfy. So battle round 1, at the end of each command phase, you gain 1 YIP. So each player's command phase, so obviously it's both command phases, you gain a YIP. If you gain, if you control 1 or more objective markers, and from the second battle round onwards, you gain 1 additional YIP if you get one of these conditions. So basically, assuming you have an objective, you're going to get to the end of battle round 1 with 2 YIP. But it doesn't suggest that you get more YIP if you control more objectives. It's at the end of your player's command phase, you gain 1 YIP if you control 1 or more objectives. So, yeah, basically, have an objective, get 1 YIP. And you'll have 2 command phases in a battle round, so you're going to have 2 YIP at the end of battle round 1. Then you control 1 or more objective markers not within your deployment zone. That's worth an additional YIP from battle round 2. You control 2 or more objective markers not within your deployment zone. That's worth an additional YIP. And you control more objective markers than your opponent. That is worth an additional YIP. So you can be in a situation where you can score or gain 4 YIP per command phase. So 8 YIP a turn, up to. Or 8 YIP a battle round, I should say. So in your turn, YIP gained this way are always gained before checking which abilities League of Votann units from your army have. Whenever a rule allows you to spend YIP, reduce the number of YIP you have by the amount your YIP cannot go below 0, otherwise you cannot use that rule. Okay, fair. So you're using it as a resource. And there is a designer note. This means you can use rules that let you gain or spend YIP to influence which ability your units have. Hostile acquisitions or fortified takeover, depending on which will be most beneficial to you. Remember that your army only changes abilities at the end of your command phase, so you will sometimes need to plan ahead if you want your army to stay in or change abilities. There you go. Magical times.
Well, I guess that's sort of straightforward. In a way, there's a benefit to going second, because in your command phase, you will likely be having more YIP to switch to fortify takeover.
Yeah, because if you push out in your turn 1, which is the second turn of the battle round, and you're in a situation where you're able to secure 3 objectives, say, that would be, so you would get 2 at the end of that, then you get 3, then you would at the start of your battle round, assuming you're still in control of those 3 objectives, you get the other 3, so you'd be on 8 YIP at the end at the start of your second command phase.
That's true, but let's see what these do. So hostile acquisition, which is the default one, let's say, each time a modernist unit makes an attack that targets an enemy unit within range of 1 or more objective markers, add 1 to the hit roll. You can re-roll advance and charge rolls made for this unit as well. So I guess that's quite good. Having +1 to hit against targets on objectives.
Yes, handy.
That's pretty good. Charge rolls and advance rolls is quite cool as well. And then, why don't you do fortified takeover?
Yes, sure. So each time a model in this unit makes an attack that targets an enemy unit, if that unit is within range of 1 or more objective markers you control, add 1 to the hit roll. So worse in a way, because it's basically about hitting things that you already control, which is a very odd set of criteria. And each time an attacker targets this unit, if the strength characteristic of that attack is greater than this unit's toughness characteristic, and this unit is not a vehicle, subtract 1 from the wound roll. So each time an attack targets this unit. Okay, yeah. So minus 1 to
it's
wound.
like how wardens operate.
Yeah,
so you're.
Minus 1 to wound is good. Adding 1 to your hit rolls for things on objectives you control. It's a weird system, right? So what you're basically saying is...
because you've got the objectives, because the idea is to be on Fortified Takeover, you've probably got to be on at least probably 2, if not 3 objectives, so therefore you're in the defensive position, so you're hunkering down, so the idea is you're fighting over those objectives as opposed to going off and getting like the 1 objective or 2 objectives left that you don't control.
Yeah, that's fair. And then so the logic is you have your 7 yip, which, by the way, again, like, well, maybe it needed to be 7. I mean, whatever. So you accrue the yip, and then you spend it, and then you go down, and then that's it, basically. My assumption is, having not read this book before, is that other units can spend yip resources in specific ways, and this is just the army-wide yip ability.
Yeah. Well, because there is no rules here about spending the yip.
There is. It's if you have fewer than 7 yip units at the end of your, if you have 7 yip or more units have 4. So, okay.
Yeah. So that's
not even a spending situation.
No, that's just basically start of your command phase, or technically it's the end of your command phase, because you'll gain your points first. This rule just determines which of the 2 abilities you're using based on the number of yip that you have generated. So this is all about accruing your yield points. But there's nothing here that is telling you how you spend them. So obviously there's got to be either detachment rules or I assume it's just baked into the data sheets, right, in terms of how you do it.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at the Hearthkin Warriors, because I assume they must have...
the default unit.
Yeah, I'm assuming they must have some yip. So they've got Feel No Pain 6+, which is what they're baked in with, which is pretty tasty. Prioritize efficiency, which is obviously the rule. Luck has, need keeps, toil earns. Okay. And then your command phase, if the unit is within range of objective marker you control, that objective marker remains under your control. Okay, cool. So you get sticky objectives, and each time modern this unit makes a ranged attack, reroll hit rolls of 1. Models have a 5+ invulnerable save if there's a thing. Okay, so there's nothing specific yippy to them.
Well, the Steeljacks, for example, give you different options based on which of the 2 prioritized efficiencies you're in. So, for example, they have each time you target this unit with the Fire Overwatch stratagem, hits a scored on an unmodified hit roll of 5+ while resolving that stratagem. If the unit from your army has the Fortified Takeover, hits a scored on unmodified hit rolls of 4+ instead, which is very good. But yeah, maybe it's for characters.
Maybe. Because the detachment rule for Knee Guard Oathbound is just each time an enemy unit is destroyed, you gain 1 yip. So it's like, okay, cool. So I'm destroying stuff and gaining yip. Let's look at Ufa. Once per turn, you can spend... Oh, here we go. Once per turn, you can spend 1 yip to change 1 hit roll, 1 wound roll, and 1 saving throw made for this model to a 6.
Okay.
And then you've got seized opportunity here on the General Carl, once per phase. 1 model from your army with this ability can use it when the unit is destroyed an enemy unit. If it does, you gain 1 yip. Oh, so you just gain yip. You're not spending it. This seems weird. So you're just accruing all this stuff. I mean, obviously I'm missing something. There's going to be something obvious in here where you're spending it. I also, by the way, as well, in terms of the design language around this yip system, like, it feels to me that you're going to incorporate a kind of core principle into your book, that you're going to have this resource management thing. I think it would make sense if you incorporated into abilities some kind of universal term that made it obvious that it's a yip ability. You know, it's like, it's weird that Ancestral Fortitude, which is once per turn you can spend 1 yip, doesn't have like some kind of bracketed or like symbol that shows you that it's a thing. You know what I mean? It's like, it sort of becomes this really convoluted system where nothing is kind of immediately obvious to the player. It's all just kind of hidden.
True,
in
but
text.
I guess it's using the standard design language of the book rather than trying to add in an extra layer of something. And it might be that it's just an ability, right? So whether it spends Yip or uses Yip, it doesn't really matter. I did notice the Mimnir strategist. He has one for gaining Yip, which is computational mastermind. At the end of your command phase, before you determine if units from your army have hostile acquisition or fortified takeover, again, they don't have a more summary of a word to determining which of those two you have. For each objective marker you control that has one or more models with this ability within range of it, you can spend 1 Yip or gain 1 Yip. Okay, so that's our first one that is specifically spending Yip. And likewise, the Arcanist Evaluator, who's a new model, he has an ability which allows you to spend or gain. Okay, so let's read this one. So he has Resource Transmutation once per turn in your shooting phase. One model with this ability can use it when it is selected to shoot. If it does, you must spend 1 Yip, and until the end of that phase, ranged weapons equipped by that model have sustained hits 1. And after that model has shot this phase, if 1 or more units were destroyed by those attacks, you gain 2 Yip. So you've got to spend 1, but you are potentially gambling to gain 2. But you're also gaining sustained hits 1. Is it just the unit by that model have sustained hits 1? So it's only him that's getting it. It doesn't seem like it's going on a unit of any kind.
Yeah. I mean, we'll read the detachments to better understand
this. It must be in the detachments, I think.
Yeah, it has to be, right? Because it's a weird thing, right? Because it's a weird tempo to this army where it's like, obviously, in the first battle round, you can only get 2 Yip, but it feels like from like battle round 2 onwards, you're going to start accruing loads of it. And it feels like you've got nothing to spend it on.
And maybe that's sort of the point, and it's like your army can easily just tick up into the fortified position as the game's going, assuming because it feels like it's a win more condition. If you're on more objectives than your opponent to gain all like the maximum amount of yield points. Yeah. You're going to be winning anyway, so it feels like there's maybe it needs only a couple of tweaks to spend them, so it will be interesting.
It's just an interesting thing as well, though, that literally from what I can ascertain, and again, as is often the way with us, we're not bothering looking at any kind of FAQs or things that they've added to it since, but the YP thing, the Yip thing, is sort of interesting in so much as well. The criteria for being in a fortified takeover is at the end of the count, if you have 7 units have it, right? But it's like, so it doesn't even cost you, which is weird. Like, I would have thought because at the rate you're accruing these, it just...
Well, I've sort of looked ahead, and there are ways where you can easily spend, what do I see? Up to 3 YP.
Oh, really?
In a stratagem. I've seen
is it all linked to those? So it's like
and
an extra...
also in the enhancements, you can spend up to 3 Yip,
or
fine. 1 Yip or whatever. So
there we go. We found what we're looking for. It's all in the strategy.
It's clearly hidden away, but it'll be interesting to see how. And maybe for the Need-Guard Oathbound. So that is the first attachment, which, as I've always stated, is the generic, the default template from which they all come. So maybe we read everything on here just to get an idea of the overall theme and play style of the army, and then for the others, we do our usual, where we just pick out a few enhancements and pick out a few stratagems.
Yeah. So we've already said what its detachment rule, which is, which is you kill something and you gain a Yip. Whoopie-doo. So, enhancements, we have Oathbound Speculator, which is Leagues of Votann model only, Shokar. Each time a model in the bearer's unit makes an attack, reroll a wound roll of 1. Each time the bearer's unit is selected to shoot or fight, you can spend 3 Yip. If you do, until the end of the phase, each time a model in that bearer's unit make an attack, add 1 to the wound roll.
So it's quite spendy. Yeah, there's
It's
no
expensive.
like it's no up to 3 yip, and it's like a gradual increase in abilities. It just costs you 3 yip, which is quite a lot.
That is quite pricey. But +1 wound is pretty spicy.
Well, that's true, and it is the whole unit as well. Especially when you're basically getting a wound roll, re-rolling your wound rolls of 1 as well. And then also, so it's basically almost like a guaranteed.
It feels more and more, though, and again, obviously this is a hot take, having not really read enough of it just yet, but it feels more and more, like you say, like the idea of this army being made to go first feels increasingly punishing on it. Because, like, if they go first and they push out, and then you can kind of answer back and take things off of them, their yield points become quite harder to kind of accrue, and then it feels like it has the potential to be quite a punishing mechanic for them.
True, although
Circumstantially.
actually, if you think about it, so if you go first and you manage to get on a couple of objectives at the start of your turn, in your command phase, you only get the bare minimum number of points. Oh, in fact, even in your opponent's command phase, you don't get those extra bonus yield points because it's not the second turn onwards.
Yeah,
you're basically you're still accruing a sort of almost behind than you would if you were just going second, especially from second turn onwards.
It does just feel, as I say, like in 40k at the moment, it feels like going first is quite punishing anyway, because you'd never really, with the way that tables are laid out now, really meaningfully get the benefits of being able to kind of like alpha strike or zerg rush or whatever you want to say. Basically, it's hard to delete your opponent turn 1. Which has been a real problem with the game in the past. So it's great that is, where we're at now. But at the same time, it's interesting, isn't it? Because when you think about how punishing going first can be, add to that the way this mechanic seems to work, it feels like it's actually extra punishing for them, potentially. But that's just my hot take. Tell me what Dead Reckoning does, mate.
Well, other than being the title of the last Mission Impossible movie, it is Leagues of Votann model only.
Shock horror.
At the end of the turn, if the bearer is on the battlefield and you spend no YP in that turn, you gain 1 yip.
Magical.
So you've got to not spend any, which I guess you would do.
Turn 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even... It doesn't sound like it's this model hasn't spent any, is you've not spent any. So...
And bear in mind, that's both turns, because it's end of turn.
Yeah,
so
at the end of your turn, if bear's on the bear, and you spend the yip in that turn, yeah.
So that might be helpful. We've got the Iron Ambassador. It's a Leagues of
He
Votann.
does the best chocolates.
He does, absolutely. Spoiling us. Anyway, it's someone armed with an Ortec pattern combi bolter only.
I suspect that will be...
A Khan.
Because it says Iron Ambassador, it makes you think...
Oh, yeah, it's the Mimimura strategist.
Pattern bolter.
Well,
no, the combi bolter, because...
Oh, yeah, he's got a pistol, so it must be...
The Autarch pattern bolter is what the Steeljacks have, but this is a combi bolter only.
Yeah,
it's obviously got to be a character, right?
Yeah.
So it's...
Must be a Khan.
I would have thought so. Or the... it's the Mimina strategist.
No, he's got a pistol.
Oh, you're right. Oh, because that's a combi bolter.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
No, it's specifically the Khan. Anyway, so yeah, one of them. Once per battle, when the bearer's unit is selected to shoot, the bearer can use this enhancement. If it does, spend up to 3 yip, and until the end of the phase, add the number of yip you just spent to the damage characteristic of the bearer's range weapon.
Which is damage 1.
So it could be damage 4 if you spend all that yip. I mean, what's its AP? 1?
As well. AP 0.
Oh my. I mean, but if it goes through...
But he does also have lethal hits if you're leading a unit.
Well, yeah, but still. The problem is with 40k at the moment is everything hits and wounds. It's about the AP and the damage at the other end, isn't it?
Yeah, because he's ballistic skill 2.
How many shots?
4 shots.
It's not really that great, is it?
It's sort of interesting, though.
It is fun. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's like, do you remember, you probably won't remember this, but in like 5th edition 40k or 6th edition. Well, at some point they released a new Asmodai model for the Dark Angels, and he had this basically this torture device on his belt, which I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it was like the Rod of Pain or something.
Oh, okay.
And back in the day, it was a weapon that did instant death, so it would kill whatever it hit outright, but it was a strength 4 AP0 weapon. So it was literally it could, if you got really lucky, one shot, I don't know, Gazkul Fracker or some kind of similar kind of non-eternal warrior, big character that doesn't have a toughness of 8 or more. But yeah, you had to basically hit it, wound it, and then it was like you could basically do one attack with it. Well, no, I think you could do a few attacks with it, but it was still AP0 straight forward.
Yeah,
so
it's only
unlikely.
strength 4. What things are going to have multi-wound that you would actually want to use it on other than characters? And he doesn't have precision, so he can't really snipe a character in any meaningful way. And
this is the complexity of 40k, right? In 40k, it's actually hard to think of things that have 4-up saves these days. Most things are this Tau Fire Warrior has a 4-up save, but it's but it'll be in cover. So, okay, so it's basically a 3-up. And then you end up in a situation where you're and he will have a 3-up because you're AP0. So it's okay, what else is there that isn't saving on a 3-up in the game? It's here's a unit of guardsmen. Oh, you mean Kassakin or, Scions who all have 4-up armor, so they're 3-ups.
But even then, they've only got 1 wound each, so it's unless you're talking about characters, right? Or I guess Elder maybe is another.
No, even Elder are mostly 3-ups these days. This is the thing, again, not to get down that rant again, but I feel like that's one of the mad things about 40k is the armor saves are so increasingly potent to try and deal with the fact that their AP system is quite punishing. But it creates this weird dynamic when you're AP0, not worth it. Anyway, the Iron Ambassador maybe does have the best chocolates, but certainly doesn't bring the best guns.
That's fair. The last one is Ancestral Crest, which is Leagues of Votann model. Only once per turn, when you target the bearer's unit with the Command Reroll stratagem, the bearer can use this enhancement. If it does, spend 1 YIP and reduce the cost of that stratagem by 1 CP. Which is interesting, because don't they have that built in already? No, the card doesn't. Does anyone else? So Grim Efficiency on Uthar the Destined. Once per battle round, when a friendly Votann unit within 12 of this model is targeted by a stratagem, if it does, reduce the cost of this CP by 1. So you can potentially reduce something by the cost of 2 if it's comboed. Interesting that is on the named character and not on the generic one. It's as if they've changed the rules that were getting very stale and generic.
It is. So those are the enhancements. Obviously, a big emphasis on YIP, which makes sense. Stratagem-wise, the first of the selection is Void Hardened. It happens in your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase, just after an enemy unit has selected a Votann unit as the target.
If your army has Fortified Takeover.
Yes.
So it's very specific.
Yeah, so you have to be in Fortified Takeover as well. Again, in that situation, probably wouldn't have hurt them to... again, I appreciate it's not their consistent design language, but again, would have been handy if they bolded Fortified Takeover.
So it's clear.
It's clear.
Yeah.
Anyway, 1 leaves a Votann unit from your army that was selected as the target. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets your unit, worsen the armor penetration characteristic of that attack by 1. So there you go. It's basically Armor of Contempt.
It is interesting, actually, because they do have not on this page, but on the next page. So in terms of stratagems, you've got when target effect, but you also do have restrictions. So they could have had it as a restriction. So it clearly it's in its own section that says this. Your army is being Fortified Takeover.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Armour of Contempt, as you said, that's not too bad. The next one is Honour of the Hold for 1 CP. It starts in the fight phase. You select one Leagues of Votann unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot. Each time you use this stratagem, you can spend up to 3 Yip. Select one enemy unit within engagement range of your unit. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes a melee attack that targets that enemy unit, improve the AP characteristic of that attack by 1. If you spend Yip during this to use this stratagem, improve the AP characteristic to 2 instead. So it's 1 CP and you improve your AP by 1. It's 1 CP plus 3 yield points, Yip, to make it AP2. Which is, nothing to be sniffed at. But yeah, it feels like 3 is the default cost of everything.
Yeah, well, up to, but yeah. Or, 3 or up to, but yeah. Again, we'll finish talking about the stratagems and I'll continue my hot takes in a moment, but ordered retreat, which I think is a rule in Old World. Oh, no, it's retreat in good order. Similar vibe.
It's similar. Yeah.
Similar vibe. It's in your movement phase, just after the League of Votann unit from your army falls back. You obviously target that unit until the end of the turn. You're eligible to shoot and declare a charge on turn which you fell back for 1 CP. It's pretty good.
That's good. Tasty, yeah. Next is Ancestral Sentence for 1 CP. It's in your shooting phase. You select one Leagues of Votann unit that has not shot yet. Each time you use a stratagem, you can spend 3 Yip. Until the end of that phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have the Sustained Hits 1 ability. If you spend Yip during this stratagem, you get Sustained Hits 2 instead. So, yeah, it's like a boost mechanic, which, Sustained Hits 2, pretty good.
Yeah. Hunter's Mark, 1 CP, happens in your shooting phase, and you target a Leagues of Votann unit that hasn't shot yet, or is being selected to shoot. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1 and reroll a wound roll of 1. Very good. Very good ability.
Especially because obviously you've got the Oathbound Speculator enhancement, so you can have up to 2 units getting reroll wound rolls per turn, which is pretty good.
Handy dandy.
And then the last one is Reactive Reprisal. This one is 2 CP. Your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has shot. If your units, if units from your army have the Fortify takeover. One Leagues of Votann unit from your army that was selected as the target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks is the target, right? And then the effect is your unit can shoot as if it were the shooting phase. Only that enemy can be shot at, basically. So you get shot at, you can shoot back. I mean, that's quite strong. 2 CP is expensive, but it's definitely better than, you're shooting your Overwatch and only hitting on 6s.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, depending on obviously what kind of shooting units you have access to, it can be pretty meaningful. I think on the whole, I mean, again, hot take in terms of like having just read through that one. It's interesting, the Yip mechanic, because obviously you're layering an additional resource mechanic on top of existing set of resource mechanics, right? So you're going to obviously need to put down your kind of markers to be like, okay, here's my Yip, here's my command points, and that's, obviously part of your bookkeeping throughout the games. I think the only thing that irks me ever so slightly with Yip is the fact that you are going to have a multitude of sources by which you gain it, and then you've also got a sliding scale of how much you're investing into certain abilities, and it requires a certain level of transparency, but also a good level of kind of consistent bookkeeping to keep on top of it, because obviously some abilities are a CP plus an amount of Yip, and it's that weird thing where you're like, okay, so this cost me 1 CP, but now I spend 3 Yip, and now I get an additional ability on top of that, and that's all good, but again, it's relying on your opponent obviously being good and consistent with their use of those rules, but then also it's one of those things that I particularly kind of find myself being despondent from, because it requires you to trust your opponent to be doing the right thing, and because of the sheer volume of instances where they're going to be going, oh, I'm spending yip, you have to then... It just becomes one of those mechanics that, because it's not kind of native to the game system, you're just going to spend a lot of time being like confused by it.
Well,
not confused, but just then.
I sort of assume you'll just have a dice to the side, which is like a 2d6 or a d8 or something to track the number of yip that you're gaining, and you just make it clear, like, this is how I gain in my command phase yip, and then there's a few other ways I can also speculate up or down. I
almost like, again though, it's like, for me, I like the idea of a resource mechanic where it's kind of relatively obvious where that resource is and where it's being spent. I had this issue a lot with pain tokens, pain points for Drakari. It always felt like, but Drakari, I mean, there are some means by which you can also gain additional pain tokens, but typically you get it through the same kind of strict criteria. But again, and also the pain abilities are phase specific. So if you're in the movement phase, you can spend pain and you can reroll your advances. If you're in the charge phase, you can spend pain and you can reroll your charge rolls. If you're in the fight phase, you can spend pain and reroll your hit rolls, right? Like it's the same thing. Obviously there's a lot of different instances where you're going to take yip and spend it for different buffs. It's just one of those things where I have no issue with this, because I'm happy to trust that my opponent knows what they're talking about and are doing it correctly. And as I often say, if they really want to cheat that badly to get the win, then good on them. They're welcome to it. But ultimately, it is something that I become despondent with, because it's one of those things where my opponent's going, and now I spend yip. And it's like, oh, and you've got the right amount of that, have you? You're like, yeah, I've always got what I need, and it always seems, it always feels very...
Yeah, I sort of understand, if you haven't ever, if you don't have the book and you haven't read it and you're not sure how it works, it could probably go over your head quite easily.
Yeah.
As an opponent, like they've just briefly mentioned it to you at the start of your game, and you're just trusting them to get it right. I understand that sort of quandary or worry when you're playing them. So that does make sense. Obviously, we're in the position, and listeners are in the now. They have been given the knowledge themselves. But yeah, if you're not in that position, it could be a bit of a struggle. I feel like, lots of armies do have these sort of secondary mechanics that use resource points of some description. Weirdly, I was going to say, what do you think came first? This Leagues of Votann rule or Hellsmiths of Hashut? Because they're very similar, thinking about it.
Well, the Hellsmiths of Hashut
gain desolation points for being on objectives and terrain features that they accumulate each turn, and they specifically spend them on units to do specific buffs. So it's not wrapped around, obviously, stratagems and enhancements, but it's effectively you're gaining points for being on places on the table, and then you're spending them to buff your units in very similar mechanics.
Yeah, I think with the Hellsmiths and the difference with the Quarfs is that they... I think the way that they've communicated that rule set is quite easily understood by the players, though, in the sense that in every hero phase, which is like a command phase, but Age of Sigmar terms. In the hero phase, all of your demonic points, I forget what they're actually called. I think it's
desolation points.
Is it desolation points?
It was something like that.
I think it's like desolation power points or something.
Yes.
Who knows? Whatever it is. Anyway, those go back into a pool and then are distributed in your hero phase. So you essentially go, I have desolated 6 points on the map. I take my 6 points and or rather all points are removed from my units, and then I accrue those 6 points that I've gained for that, and then I distribute them amongst the units, and then it's very clearly communicated to the other player, because it becomes that thing. Now, again, the Hellsmiths of the Chaos Dwarves, different units gain different buffs, but at least you can see where those points have been spent, because you see that your opponent's gone, cool, I put 3 on this, I put 2 on this, and you can see the distribution.
And you do that up front in your command phase, whereas here they're just a pool that you're then spending as and when you want it, basically.
Yeah. And also there's a kind of, at least, here's the thing, right? When I'm playing against someone running Chaos Dwarfs, my assertion is that because the sort of design language around it is quite easily understood, because basically you get 2 turns, 2 battle rounds into a game against those, you're starting to get a feel for how it works, and you're seeing how it's ramping, and you're understanding what's going on. I think the thing is with this is like, because there is that nuance of different things have different yip points associated with them, there's different criteria by which you accrue them, and then there's also this added layer of, if I accrue enough, I tilt into a new system, into a new army.
Right.
Role.
Yeah, that's true. It's a bit more layered, and as you say, I think the confusion might be that the rules exist in several places. There's the enhancements, there's the stratagems, and then there's individual units, which feels like potentially just the characters have ways of manipulating them. But then, characters in the Hellsmiths have ways of manipulating them as well.
Oh, totally. I think the difference is, though, is like with them, like you can start to understand broadly what's happening with them, and it's like specific units. Like, again, having not played these guys yet, I don't know for sure, but the thing is that, what we've seen from what GW has put out there so far is that specific units get specific benefits from the amount of these demonic power points that you put on them, and those demonic power points increase the overall kind of output as you put more on. So if you put 1 demon point on a unit, they get a little buff, but that buff becomes greater if you put 3 demon points on them.
Yeah.
So it becomes at least kind of communicative in the sense of you understand what you're dealing with. And again, it's quite easy to kind of say to someone like, oh, I've put 3 points on them, so now they've got a ward save or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
Whereas I think this is quite reactionary, and I think it's just that thing where and there's not like a ceremonial sequence where I'm taking away everything and then redistributing. It's just a case of, I've got this resource and I can just throw it at things.
It's just a counter. I think what's interesting is a lot of the spending of them is effectively locked behind spending CP. So
which I don't like either.
It's a double pain point, because you're going to have to spend it twice. Although the stratagems, just by default getting extra AP or, reroll hit rolls of 1 or whatever, are good. Obviously, if you can buff it to AP2 or sustained hits 2, it makes it a lot better. So, but then it depends. I guess if you're doing really well in the game, you're going to have you're going to be swimming in points. So,
yeah.
And there's only a few times where you have the option to spend them. So actually, it costs 3 yip, but I'm probably only going to use 1 or 2 of those stratagems per turn. So that's potentially the most I could spend is, let's say, 6 there, and maybe some extras from the enhancement. So, yeah, it feels like you might not be spending all that much unless you're really going out of your way to use those specific stratagems. At least in this detachment, it'll be interesting to see what the other detachments do as well.
Yeah, I just think, as I say, I've been having a bit of a bugbear with resource mechanics for a number of years, a number of rule sets, a number of editions. I think I really became aware of it in 9th edition when they introduced the Cabal points for 1,000 stuns.
Yeah, because that was a lot of maths in terms of counting up all your units and how many points that they did. But then I think the characters did extras. So, and then that put you into a certain threshold to be able to do abilities and stuff like that. So yeah, felt like it would be quite complicated to, or just time consuming to sort of do at the start of your turn to work out what level you're on. Yeah,
and I felt like, because they were like, oh, this guy's worth, like Magnus is worth 4, Ahriman's worth 3, fair enough. And then it's like, this type of sorcerer is worth 1, this type of sorcerer is worth 3, this one's, it's like, can they all not just be 1? And then Magnus and Ahriman can be 2 because
they're good.
It's like, sometimes I find that kind of weirdness unnecessarily weird, but it is what it is. I think, and again, not to be like an Age of Sigmar apologist or someone who, always kind of leans more into kind of saying that he feels like the Age of Sigmar rules are a bit better, but I think in this instance I can definitely see your point, and I can see where the two armies have kind of borrowed or kind of shared similar kind of design decisions, and it makes sense in these guys' case, right? Because obviously they're out there and prospecting and gaining stuff, and it builds more of
both evil corponarchs, speculators, and basically they're both industrialists of a different kind.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's it, isn't it? It's like ultimately, and I like it more than the grudge system. I think I think this is, but the grudge system, when it came around, always felt just a bit too overpowered. This is fine. It's just, again, I would like it if they had had they just taken some like design cues out of Korf's, Chaos Dwarf's, Hashut. Because I'm not saying I particularly like that rule as well for the Hellsmiths of Hashut, even though I think it's got its own issues, but at least it makes sense. It feels
quite thematic, though, like the way it was described in Warhammer community articles, like they're going out and they're sort of desolating the land.
Yeah.
Because that's obviously what would then be their industry, right? So they're going out there desolating, corrupting the lands, and that gives them the points to then spend, whereas here it's just called prioritized efficiency, and you just gain yield points, but it's like, why do I gain yield points? What am I doing? Am I mining these areas? What am I doing to gain it? In fact, there's a bit of lore.
Read the blurb. Tell me the words, Phil.
As the Kin Truth describes, luck has, needs keep, toil earns. The Kin host's ability to efficiently switch its strategic footing embodies this wisdom. If results from swift assessment of the foe's possessions, how best to seize them for the Kindred's needs, and then to stubbornly toil to hold them against counterattacks. So that's talking more about the flipping between the hostile acquisition and fortified takeover. There's no flavour text about gaining the yield points, which is effectively we're gaining some kind of generic resource points for contesting land. It felt like there could have just been a touch more flavour to it in the way that the Hellsmiths of Hashut have managed to do it, which felt very thematic. This should have been, mining points or something, and then just by changing its name, I guess a yield is meant to be a similar thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But if they just, it doesn't feel very characterful or flavoursome in the same way, even though it's effectively doing the same thing.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think that's the thing, isn't it? It just doesn't sort of have that same body and soul to it. But then, again, I need to obviously read the Hellsmiths of Hashut book, the Chaos Dwarf book, to really understand it. But yeah, I mean, and again, I'm not as big my knowledge about Chaos Dwarves of old is not as in depth as your own. So the fact that you feel like it's quite thematic actually is quite reassuring, because I feel like, to me, I was like, okay, it kind of makes sense, but I didn't know if it was immediately like quite Chaos Dwarfy necessarily, but it feels like,
I mean, is it potentially the best rule? I mean, maybe not, but it feels,
it's interesting,
exactly, it's interesting. The disappointing thing in a way is that this feels very similar.
Yes.
And it's like, clearly someone copied somebody's homework. We don't know in which order which came first.
Yeah. So what you come up with for the Chaos Dwarves? We're doing this. Oh, that's a good idea.
Okay, right. We'll just do something.
We'll do it, but slightly different. I just think that's it, though, isn't it? It's like when to me, the problem is, right, is because I'm an old man and I look back at the old days and I have so much love for the old systems, and it's crazy now, isn't it, how everyone used to talk about things like 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th edition. 6th and 7th edition, to be fair, are a fair game, but you look at things like 4th edition, people talk about that rule set as it being kind of impenetrable, but you actually looked at it in gameplay terms, and somehow they managed to communicate all these like nuanced differences between armies by only having a few rules by comparison, whereas like nowadays, did anyone, I suppose sisters have had faith points as a system for a while, I want to say.
Yeah, since they came, since their reintroduction, they had their faith points.
But I can't remember if they've had them throughout the entirety. I couldn't tell you what was in their second edition book. I never owned it, never read it.
Yeah.
Maybe they had faith points for a long time, but that's the thing, like, with the exception of them, and again, this is not necessarily 100% no, nothing had an additional resource mechanic in the game. Oh,
well, Elder did at one point, but I thought
no,
that was
Elder,
like
yeah, that was in
onwards.
again, 8th onwards is what I'm saying. So I fought one in 7th edition. Codex Khorne, Demon Kin had a blood tithe mechanic.
Yes, no, that is true.
But like, you know, and the thing was though, it was like, they were so rare, and again, the blood type mechanic was quite straightforward in so much as kill something, get a blood type point.
Yeah,
it wasn't like oh, you've killed a certain type of something, get 3, get 2, you know. It was always just, it was quite linear in its construction. I think that's always my main bugbear is when, and again, if you go back and listen to like our early reviews of like when they started introducing the new mission structures in like 9th edition, and I was like, what is going on? It's like, oh, this objective is worth 7 points unless you're standing on one toe, in 1 foot, in which case it's worth 5. And then if you're doing this as well, it's worth 6. And it's like, why can't everything just be worth 1? Like, why do we have to be in this situation where it's like, this one's worth 7, this one's worth 8, this one's worth 5? Like, I don't understand.
No, that's true.
But, yeah, that's been a kind of bugbear that I've had with modern games design in GW. I think it's because they feel like by suggesting games are scored out of 100, it's got a lot more granular nuance to it than if a game's scored out of 10. But it's like, it's the same.
Yeah, it's sort of the same, but with a little bit more granularity. Because unless, here's the thing, if you win a game and it is 34 points to 40, or 34 points to 37, that could not technically be represented because you would have both either scored 3 points each or 4 points each. Yeah. But if it was, as I said, 37 to 40, then it's like, well, probably one was on 3 points and you were on 4 points. Like, it can still function. It's like how, and to be fair, if you both score 3 points each, which is equivalent of basically between 30 and 40 points in modern day settings, and you call it a draw, that's fine with me, because if a game is that close, I would rather it be a draw. Yeah. Rather than it be this tooth and nail thing where, someone finally wins, but I don't know if it feels maybe sometimes a bit unfair or... again, it's because I'm an old timey-wimey boy, but I loved the old stupid secondaries of... they would be the things that would win the game. And his thing as a guard player, I would always lose because someone would have always gotten the... Is it behind enemy lines?
Yeah, line breaker.
Line breaker, that's it. Someone would always score line breaker against me, and I could never score that because my arm was too slow because it's guard.
Well, it wasn't too bad when you took that that weird forge roll detachment where you had to try and pick up the dead man. You were well quick back then.
True. Well, I mean, even then...
Is a Krieg specific detachment?
It was a Krieg,
formation
mission,
or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was their special army rule. What was it called?
I can't remember.
Basically, you could put a counter down in your opponent's deployment zone. You had to reach it, which I always used as representing the fallen casualty from the Krieg Quartermaster kit. Basically, if you got to that objective, you got an extra, 1 or 2 victory points. But if you didn't, your opponent scored extra victory points instead. Invariably, I never got it. But what you did get is, every time an infantry unit died, you could bring it back on. But it had to be basically on your board edge, which in a 6x4 table is literally a million miles away from where you actually need to be. So it was never that great thing to do, but I always did it because it was thematic.
Yeah, it was fun. I remember when we did that Council of War event and we did that big apocalypse game, you, me, Andy and Richie.
Oh, yeah.
I remember Nick from the Warhammer community team, who was working in events back then, came up to us at the end of the game and he was like, how did you score all those points? Because it was like, and we were like, oh, it's a Krieg rule.
Because it was one of the few ways you could score extra points beyond what the game would normally be, sort of 3 to 6 points or something.
But that was the weirdness of it, right? Because that was, I think, arse end of 6th edition, maybe early 7th edition. I think it was end of 6th. And I think that was when the game was just a horrible mess because it had so many layers of things, and they were in situations where they were supporting literature from like years ago. Like I remember in that same game, a young lad brought 3 Storm Ravens because he had found I think it was
a White Dwarf article.
Yeah, from like 5th edition or something.
But they said, it's legal, let him run
let him do it.
But it was terrible for him, and he basically spent half of the day doing nothing, much to his annoyance.
Yeah, but again, as I said at the time, if you're going to bring that kind of army, you should bring some kind of methodology.
Oh, to bring it on, because this was the days when you had to roll for you as well.
Yeah.
And we had a way of reducing that roll by 1.
Yeah, we were. He had to roll 4+, and he ended up. And we were like, oh, well, now it's a 5+, and then it's like, but all he had to do. There was an elder player in his army. All they had to do was bring an Autarch, and then it was instant. They didn't have to roll with the Autarch. But anyway, we're going back in time. We're going to talk about Votann a bit more now. But yeah, like, mechanically wise, it's interesting, is what I would say. So yeah, what's the next detachment called, Phil? It's got a lot of words, I can say that much.
So this is the Persecution Prospect. The detachment rule is assailed from every angle. Leagues of Votann units from the army have the following ability. So they get Guerrilla Adepts. In your shooting phase, just after this unit is selected to shoot, this unit can use this ability. If it does, select one enemy unit, excluding monsters and vehicles. Until the end of that phase, attacks made by models in this unit can only target that enemy unit, and only if it's an eligible target. And after resolving those attacks, if one or more of those attacks hit that enemy unit, until the start of your next shooting phase, that enemy unit is assailed. This simply labels that unit for the purposes of this ability and some enhancements and stratagems, which is a caveat they rarely use in other made-up rules that they do in other detachments that we've reviewed over the last year. If that unit is already assailed until the start of your next shooting phase, it is also pinned. While a unit is pinned, subtract 2 inches from its move characteristic and subtract 2 from charge rolls made for it. So basically, a unit has to completely shoot at that target for it to be assailed, which does nothing as far as we can tell so far, except there are some rules later on, like enhancements and stratagems. But if you shoot at a unit that's already assailed, they are pinned, then it's -2 to move and -2 to charge, which is, quite good. But as a main detachment rule, it's a bit like, oh, whatever. But maybe extra things will apply.
I mean, it sounds awful. Like, what's the upside here? Like, so I've got to put 2 whole units into something,
and for it to survive.
I mean, your movement's a lot less when you're dead. So,
well, yes, that is key. It's like, just kill the thing, but it doesn't apply to monsters and vehicles either, which sort of makes sense.
Which is the most primary target for where this could be useful.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing where if you're shooting at monsters and vehicles with, like, las guns, not that they have them, but let's just use that as an example, tanks should not care and would not be pinned by small arms fire. But if you're shooting them with las cannons, maybe they would be pinned effectively, because you'll be much more concerned about what's shooting at you.
So, I mean, all the Leagues of Votann units get it, right? So I suppose if you're using some of the smaller transports or even individual characters, like, obviously...
True, just to ping a couple of shots onto something.
But to be fair, there's very few characters that you're going to be running lone op style.
Well,
like
that is true.
40k, all these characters are basically going to be assigned to units. It just seems really bad. Like, I don't really understand. Like,
I guess it's to stop you from basically being charged at, because I imagine you do have some punchy units, but ultimately you're a shooting army.
Yeah, but -2 to movement, isn't that terrifying?
And 2 to charge.
That is the strongest part of it, because it means that a double 1 fails.
Yeah, and
Actually, no. Double one will fail because you'll be -2, but then you just need to roll a 3+ on 2d6 to.
Well, assuming you're right next to them, right?
But I suppose not with -2 movement. I guess.
And obviously, it wouldn't ever affect units that are coming from deep strike or anything because they'll be 9 inches away, and you won't have a chance to shoot at them.
No,
because it is specifically in your shooting phase.
Well, let's read some of the enhancements. So we've got an eye for weakness. Each time a model in this bearer's unit makes an attack, the target's an assailed unit, add 1 to the wound roll. Okay, fair enough. So now all of a sudden you have a benefit to them being assailed.
Right, okay. I'll go for... I presume we're just picking 2.
Yeah.
I'll go Nomad Strategist because it's the longest one. Leagues of Votann model only. Once per battle, at the end of your opponent's fight phase, if the bearer is on the battlefield, you can use this enhancement. If it does, you can spend up to 4 yip. 4. Select 1 Hernkin unit from your army, and for every 2 yip you just spent, select up to 1 additional Hernkin unit from your army. You can remove those units from the battlefield and place them into strategic reserves. You cannot select a unit that is within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, excluding assailed units. So assailed is you've been shot. Oh no,
once.
That's just you've been shot.
Pinned is twice.
So you can be assailed and still into and still in combat, which would allow these guys to disappear. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So. But when you shoot, that just lasts for that turn, isn't it?
So in your shooting phase, just after the unit selected shoots...
Oh, until the end of the phase, attacks made by models in this unit can only target that enemy unit. Alright, until the start of your next shooting phase. Okay, so it does that. So you could, in theory, shoot at a unit, charge in... you've assailed them because you shot at them, then you can use this ability to disengage. But normally you can't shoot at units that are in combat unless you've got pistols, which would work technically.
Yeah, but you can only find pistols into a combat if you're already in that combat.
Well, yes, that's what I mean. But the thing is, my point was, normally you can shoot at a thing in combat if it's a monster or vehicle, but you can't assail those things.
Yeah.
So the only way, if a unit's already in combat, you have to use your pistols to shoot at them.
Yeah, and I mean, these units, I mean, some of them do have obviously pistols and swords and bits and pieces, so potentially it kind of works from that perspective. So it's for those kind of melee-focused units that have got pistols and swords.
I think so.
Okay.
Interesting.
Stratagem-wise, I'll go with Frontier Momentum. So it's in your movement phase, it's 1 CP, and it is 1 Hernkin unit that's not been selected to move this phase. So at the end of the phase, if this unit advances, do not make a roll. Okay, so you just get a flat 6 advance.
Okay, that's not bad. That's pretty good. I'm going to go for Claim Staker Reflex, 1 CP strategic ploy. It's your opponent's movement phase just after an enemy unit has made a normal, advance, or fallback move. Select 1 Leagues of Votann unit, excluding artillery and vehicles, that is within 9 inches of that enemy unit. Each time you use a stratagem, you can spend 2 yip. Your units can make a normal move of up to d6 inches. If you spend yip during this use of this stratagem, your unit can make a normal move of up to 6 inches instead. A unit cannot embark within a transport as part of this move. What's odd is it says you can spend just 2 yip, so it basically costs you 2 yip to make a d6 into a 6 inch, which is quite useful.
Yeah. Again, always my frustration I find with these particular rules, and again, maybe they've changed it recently, and I might be misquoting here, but there was definitely a time, and I think it is still in effect, where you move up to 6, but you can only move your move characteristic if it's a normal move, right?
Oh, right.
And a lot of the Votann have move 5.
Right, so it is, I bet, the new guys.
Oh yeah, they're probably move 6. I know
They've got long legs.
The Berserkers are 6. I know that much.
Yeah, most are 5, as you say.
But yeah,
and it obviously excludes artillery and vehicles, which would have a bigger movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, the Steeljacks are movement 5 inches as well. By irony, the long legs only have a 5-inch.
Have you seen those models in person yet?
No.
I have. They're not actually that big.
Okay.
I mean, they're big. This is the thing.
They're
actually,
big for Votann.
Big by Votann. I think that's the thing that you always sort of forget when you're looking at like the Votann range when photographed is that these models are quite a bit more diddy compared to the rest.
I imagine they're as big as the New Thousand Suns, like
a little smaller than that,
like.
But yeah, similar kind of vein. Yeah, look, I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously, if you really love the trench coats over armour aesthetic that myself and Phil aren't huge fans of.
Is Hernkir specifically those units, I guess?
I'm guessing, because they're the ones photographed on the, on the thing.
Let's just look at the keywords. So, the Capricious Carrier, that covers them. Hernkin Jaegers are, as we say, Hernkin Pioneers. Yeah, so that is... Yeah, it must specifically be those guys then. Which is an interesting take to have an army that leans into them.
Yeah.
What's odd, though, is looking through the stratagems, there doesn't really seem to be any which really, affects whether you're pinned versus assailed, bar the few that we've sort of read already. So it's odd that there's a strong point about being assailed which does nothing versus other than that you've got to shoot at them a second time to then be pinned. But I would have thought there'd be more things that proc when you're assailed to sort of make a point of it. But no, it's just basically an in-between word for you're not quite pinned yet. Shoot them again. Which I don't know. Personally, I don't rate that army roll at all.
No, it's really underwhelming.
And as you say, just to be -2 movement, I mean, it's interesting. And against another army that's super slow moving, that could be quite punishing against, Death Guard or something, which maybe moving 5 inches takes them to a 3-inch move.
What I would have preferred is that being pinned makes you battle shocked. I actually think that would have been more
useful. Yeah, that would be quite interesting. Would that be too strong? But I mean, you've got to shoot 2 units.
Yeah,
completely. Yeah. Like you can't split fire or anything like that at these units to be pinned.
Yeah, so I think forcing battle shock onto people would be better because it obviously
that also feels more in line. But here's the thing: I feel like every time you've got to be battle shocked, you've got to have ±1 leadership because otherwise it's almost pointless for most armies. In which case it's like just reduce everybody's leadership by 1. Yeah. And then it's like, cool, now actually taking backshock tests is quite scary for most armies.
Oh yeah, totally.
Because it shouldn't really be, it's a bit of a tangent, a battle shock test should be like the most dire situation you're in. It shouldn't be your standard bravery. Yeah. It's not like, cool, an orcs are running at me and I'm a space marine. Now, this is no problem. It should be like, oh my god, I'm the last surviving member of my squad. I'm out of ammo and my arm has been ripped off. Yeah. I'm probably going to run away now. That should be the moment you're doing a battle shock test. Yeah. And you should most likely have a chance of failing it more than passing it, I feel.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Most people just kind of take for granted that they're not going to fail a battle shock test, or that they do, and they do so in such small kind of numbers. I think,
and it's I get the idea that things shouldn't be black and white. This thing's always going to happen, and the fun of the game is often in those edge cases where it's like, cool, I'm a Custodes, and I'm very unlikely to fail a morale test of any kind, but I have because I've just rolled double ones.
But again, it's one of those things, isn't it? Would it have killed them to have added like a system to battle shock where there is like a circumstance where it is made worse? Like if you are below half strength, take a battle shock test, but I don't know, like. Or add like a rule that like something like a Custodes player could lean into where they don't suffer this negative amplifier, but other things do. Yeah. I don't know. It's just one of those things where, anyway, I just think Battleshock should probably feature in the game more than it does, and I think they should do more things to kind of utilise it.
Maybe that would be 11th Ed.
Maybe. I don't think so. I think there's every probability that they go the way of Sigmar and just remove it entirely.
Well, yeah, because the reason why Sigmar has it from the horse's mouth, because I'm pretty sure it was when we spoke to Matt, the developer, he was basically like, basically it was the joke answer is, but it only affected orcs. Because they're the ones that really suffered from it. Because every other army, a lot of them have stipulations as to why they're really good. It's like ghosts aren't scared because they're ghosts, so they never run away. And it's like, well, Sigmas are like these magical, the bravest of all the warriors, so they're going to have a fantastic leadership. And everybody has technically a reason why they've got really good leadership.
Yeah.
With the exception of one or two armies. And it's like, actually, it should be very few should be sort of exempt from, failing a morale or a battle shock test of some kind.
No, I don't disagree with you. But anyway, I think, it'd just be nice to see him utilise the battle shock mechanic more in an army that actually could lean into it and cause battle shock to things. There's meaningful advantages to that. Again, the problem is it probably would be a bit too powerful because obviously if something's on an objective, bearing in mind that you're getting like re-rolls to hits and wounds and all sorts of other things from your general army rules against things that are on objectives you don't control. So all of a sudden if you're just going 2 units are shooting at that unit on the objective and then lo and behold, you don't hold that objective anymore, it's like, that's actually quite a problem.
Yeah, true, especially when you're getting lots of rerolls.
Also, if the pin counter then kind of lasted to your preceding shooting phase, that actually means that your opponent isn't going to have
turn.
Would be remaining battle shocks throughout, and that would actually probably be quite...
Well, in theory, unless they tweaked it to how it should be, they would just be making a test again in their turn, and then it's like, cool, they're no longer pinned.
Well, no, because, again, it's all hypothetical. It's not what it is. It's a bad rule, and it's not that interesting. Let's talk about the Delve Assault Shift. So, Chthonian Berserker units from your army gain the battle line keyword, and Chthonian Berserker units from your army have the deep strike ability. Brilliant. And a reason to buy more Chthonian Berserkers.
A whole army of your least favourite models.
Oh my god, absolutely.
I mean, the fact they all get deep strike is probably quite strong, I imagine.
I can only assume.
We can look at their rules later, but I imagine they are one of the 2 close combat units I can think of that these guys have. What enhancement would you be giving them?
I don't know. Pile driver, because it's, like a wrestling move.
Wrestling, yeah.
Leagues of Votann models only. Each time the bearer unit is selected to fight, the bearer can use this enhancement. If it does, spend up to 2 yip. And until the end of the phase, add the number of yip you just spent to the damage characteristics of the bearer's melee weapons.
Okay, that's quite cool. I will go with... there's too many. They've all got quite good names, but I'll go with the multi-wave system jammer. Leagues of Votann model only once per battle in your movement phase. If the bearer is on the battlefield, you can use this enhancement. If it does select one friendly Chthonian unit that is in reserves until the end of the until the end of the phase, for the purposes of setting up that unit, treat the battle round as being one higher than it actually is. Okay, God, it's a lot of words for a simple thing. Basically, a unit in reserves can come on a turn earlier.
Yeah.
Great.
Chthonian Berserkers, just for the sake of saying, because they're obviously central to this army, or this particular detachment. Movement 6, toughness 6, 5 up save, which is really bad. 1 wound. Oh my god, that's terrible. Cool. Leadership 7+, which is whatever. An OC 1. Okay. But feel no pain 4+.
Ooh.
So, okay, they're getting better in that regard. So, they've got a maul that is 3 attacks, hits on 4s. Ooh, okay. I've not seen armies that hit on 4s before, but they're getting +1 to hit when they're going out to get stuff, aren't they, because of the army rule.
And re-rolling their charge rolls. Especially, which is handy when you're deep striking.
Yeah. Strength 5, which is pretty reasonable. -2 AP and a damage of 3. Wowzers. Okay.
The anti-monster 3+, anti-vehicle 3+.
Yeah, not too shabby. Heavy plasma axe, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s. Strength 7. good, -2 free damage, and twin concussion gauntlets, which are twin linked, 4 attacks, hitting on 4, strength 9, -2 damage. Interesting, there's only 2 damage on that, but whatever. Strength 9 with reroll wounds is all sorts of good. Feel no pain 4+ is also pretty good. Cyber stims, each model in this unit is destroyed by a melee attack if the model's not fought. On a 4+, you get to basically fight again, noting that if you are in your fortified takeover, you add 1 to the result, so 3+ when you're in fortified. And then subterranean explosions in your shooting phase. After this unit has shot, select 1 enemy unit, excluding monster vehicles, hit by 1 or more of those attacks. The enemy cannot be the target. Oh, okay. Until the start of your next shooting phase, that enemy unit cannot be the target of the fire Overwatch stratagem. Nice. Okay. So, yeah. So you shoot and then you can't be overwatched, or rather that unit can't overwatch, and they fight on death. I mean, how many did you get in a unit? Between 5 and 10 berserkers. I mean, 1 health with a 4-up feel no pain. And the 4-up feel no pain's healthy, I suppose, but I mean, you're looking at, in a lot of instances, you'll be getting your 5-up reduced to a 6-up. So you're doing a 6-up save followed by a 4-up feel no pain. A lot of stuff does 2 damage in this game at the moment. So you're probably going to shred that unit with shooting attacks.
Unlikely. Although earlier you were saying that everything will get a +1 save because they're being covered.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying, like, so they'll get the 5-up save quite often, but more often than not with, like, even if it's, well, there's a decent amount of, like, -2 AP, 2 damage doing the rounds, right? But equally, you're right, even on the 5-up, but it's still not, they're not very durable. I mean, toughness 6 is pretty respectable, though. I guess they just hope that no one leans into Hellblasters too extensively.
Yeah, true. It's interesting that all models come equipped with the heavy plasma racks by default, which is probably one of the better ones. And then the mole launcher is actually optional.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I wonder how it... Yeah, it's sort of odd that you've got this really close combat unit with like an optional shooting element to it, which doesn't really seem to factor in, but then in a way it's actually quite cool because it basically allows you to switch off Overwatch stratagem for the thing you're just about to charge, so that's quite a kind of cool synergy between them.
I mean, ultimately, the fact that you can basically pick a unit and have it arrive from Deep Strike turn 1, it's going to get the reroll charges, it's going to get all those other buffs. It does seem like it hits pretty hard. I mean, AP2 damage free is very respectable. I mean, again, you're charging into a unit of, say, Terminators that aren't wielding storm shields and aren't Deathwing Knights. You're going to pick up a lot of Terminators with that sort of damage output, which is pretty respectable. So, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, you can definitely see why this is a powerful combination. In terms of any kind of stratagem, I mean, I'll go with Augmented Assault. It happens in your movement phase. 1 Chthonian Berserker unit from your army that has not been selected to move. Each time you use the stratagem, you can spend up to 2 yip until the end of the turn. Add X to the move characteristic, where X is the number of yip. And your unit is eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which it advances. So basically, your move will go from 6 to 8 if you spend the 2 yip, and then obviously you get the D6 advance on top of that as well. So you could get as much as 14 inches of movement and then charge thereafter.
Yeah, okay,
which is
quite cool.
Which isn't too shabby, to be fair. Their mole grenade launcher is not an assault weapon though, so.
You wouldn't use it then.
You wouldn't be able to use it to turn off any potential overwatches or whatever.
Yeah, true. I will pick the Weave Work Buttress for 1 CP. It's in your opponent's shooting phase just after they've selected targets. Your unit you select has to have the hostile acquisition. You select 1 Leagues of Votann unit that was a target of the shooting attack, and you get -1 to be wounded. Quite simple. Quite good.
Quite simple. I mean, on the whole, it's very evident that has play. Like, is it going to be the best thing ever? Maybe not.
But also, it's like you'll have to have multiples of this one monopose kit.
There's some variety within the kit. There is some variety.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know personally because I've not got them. It'll be interesting to see how you could easily convert and mix and match either the weapons, I guess, or maybe they can be posed in slightly different ways.
Yeah, I mean, you could have 6 units of them.
I assume they come in 5s as well.
They do, yeah.
So you've got to really buy a lot of. You've got to love Chthonian Berserkers basically to really make that work. It feels like if there was a couple more Chthonian units, it would make a bit more sense to it. So it was a bit more of a theme, like the previous one with the Herdkin. Like there's like a couple of transports and there's a couple of there's the generic unit plus the Kill Team 1, plus all the bikes and the new quad floaty bike thing.
Yeah.
So there's more of an option, whereas this is literally themed around one unit only.
Yeah.
Which I guess and
the mold launchers as well, they're Chthonian-esque.
Oh, that's true. Do they have a Chthonian Berserker keyword, though?
Not Chthonian Berserker, because I don't think that's a keyword.
No, but they have a Chthonian keyword, so visually they would fit in, but they don't gain any of the benefits.
Not meaningfully, no.
But I guess it's the equivalent of having, the first company, like the Terminator attachment, and it's just Terminator. But at least with Terminators, you've got some characters plus an assault variant that's still not come out yet, but will eventually, plus the regular Terminators. It's sort of a bit like that.
Yeah, I think the thing is with again, it's always ridiculous to compare anything to the Space Marines because they've just got so much more fluff and circumstance and gravitas around their particular kind of units and builds, etc. But yeah, when you look at, obviously, an army like this, yeah, I don't know. It feels like it'd be very interesting to me to imagine someone who wants to really lean into a very, very specific theme within Votann specifically, especially for that theme being Chthonian Berserkers specifically. It's very...
Okay, well, yeah. Okay, so I've just had a flick through to see the others. There are 2 more detachments.
Yeah.
And neither of them seem particularly themed around what are hold on, let me get the correct name, the Hearthguard, which are like the Terminators, the exo suits.
Yeah.
It's like, why haven't they made it those guys? Why isn't it? Because they've got a character and a unit.
Yeah.
To me, that feels like an archetype. You're going to go for really elite guys. You're going to have the guys in the Terminator armor. And in here, you've got the naked guys that only has 1 unit. Weird. Okay, that seems an odd pick out of all the other options. If they had what are they called again? The Halfkin. Yeah. I think that's a correct pronunciation. Yeah, if they had that as well, it would sort of make sense. The fact that they've sort of not included those as a detachment, but had the Chthonian Berserkers instead seems a little odd. But, we assume Games Workshop knows what it's doing.
I'm sure they do. Next is Brandfast Oathband. What's their detachment rule, Phil?
They've got mobile sensor relays. So the Leagues of Votann transport units from the army have the following ability. Fire base control, which is an aura ability. While a friendly Leagues of Votann infantry unit is wholly within 6 inches of this transport, ranged weapons equipped by models in that infantry unit have sustained hits 1. So this is the Do You Like Transports detachment.
Indeed.
And you get sustained hits 1 on your infantry models, which is, do you know what? I prefer the way they've worded this. So basically you've got to be much like the Caradron Overlords, you've just got to be next to your transport. What I don't know if the current version of the Guard Codex, the Astra Militarum, had it, but it was basically you only get this kind of bonus when you get out of a transport.
Correct, yeah.
Whereas this is like, no, you just stood next to it and you get it, which feels a lot simpler as opposed to, I've got to get out of the transport this turn, get the buff, then I've got to use other abilities and stratagems to get back in the transport, which technically does keep you safer. But it feels like a bit too much toing and throwing, taking models off the table, putting them back on. Whereas this is like, no, you just stand next to it and you get the buff nice and easy.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Enhancement-wise, I'll go with signature restorations. So the Iron Master model only. Each time a friendly Leagues of Votann model is repaired using the bearer's Forge Wrought expertise ability, that model regains 1 additional lost wound. So handy.
That's going to be like their tech marine dude.
Yeah, it's that geezer with the selection of robots. I'm
going for the Trivarg Cyber Implant. Leagues of Votann model only. In your shooting phase, each time the bearer's unit is selected to shoot. If it disembarked from a transport this turn, or if you spend 2 yip. Good caveat. Or if you do that, until the end of that phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in this unit have sustained hits 2. So basically, it's sustained hits 1 normally. If you get out of a transport, it's sustained hits 2, or you just spend 2 yip, which is potentially worthwhile.
It seems very good actually, because I mean, bear in mind, wasn't it? There was a stratagem in the first one which was 1 CP and spend 3 yip and get sustained hits 2.
Oh, yes.
So actually, that's quite... I mean, I don't know, obviously, what the points are associated to that, but it seems a little bit more... it seems a little fairer from a asset management perspective. Stratagem-wise, we'll go with... Vengeance Flares.
Someone else can pick.
All right, well,
but no, go on.
So it's in your opponent's unit phase. 1 League of Votann infantry unit that was not hit by unit that was hit by 1 or more of those attacks. Each time the unit uses this stratagem, you can spend 2 yip. Select 1 friendly Capricious or Sagittar unit within 6 of your infantry unit. If you spent yip during this the use of this stratagem, you can select 1 friendly Hecaton land fortress unit within 6 of your infantry unit instead. The selected unit can shoot as if it were your shooting phase. When doing so, models in that selected unit can only target that enemy unit, and only if it is an eligible target, and that costs 2 CP. So
nice.
Expensive, but then obviously things
Emergency
like your
flare.
Hecaton,
and the Hecaton land fortress gets a fire back.
Yeah,
I feel like didn't Space Marines get a similar thing? Was it Space Marines?
There was another thing in this book that had it. But
I think there's been a few armies that
Wraith
have
Guards
that
used to have it baked in.
Option, yeah.
But that used to just be a unit rule. It was like, oh, you've shot me, get shot back. It was like, what?
And that one's cool. I like that one. I'm going to go for a similar sounding one, Illuminated Priority for 1 CP. It's your shooting phase just after a Votann vehicle has shot. The target is the Votann vehicle. Select 1 enemy unit hit by 1 or more of those attacks. Until the end of that phase, each time a Votann infantry model from your army makes an attack against that enemy unit, you reroll a hit roll of 1. Which is a classic. A guard had a similar one to that years ago. So your whole army gets a reroll hit rolls of 1 against a particular unit. And that's kind of cool. It does require a vehicle to do the shooting, though. But it could literally just be a gun. You don't have to have shot everything at it, which is kind of tasty.
And you're in a transport army, so you're going to have lots of vehicles all over the place.
That is true, yeah.
All right, the last of their detachments, the Fire Arsenal. So, optimal application. At the end of your command phase, you gain 1 yip for each objective marker you control that is not within your deployment zone, and has 1 or more Iron Master and or strategist models from your army within range of it, to a maximum of 2 yip gained from this detachment rule per turn. So this will deal with your inability to gain more than 2 yip in the first battle round. So with this, if you push out, control 2 more objectives with either Iron Master or strategist units, you will then gain additional yip up to an additional 4 per turn.
So it's to a maximum of 2 yip.
Oh yes, so 4 per battle round, 2 per turn.
But obviously, it doesn't really affect turn 1 because you can't move anywhere turn 1 because it's in your command phase.
This is true. Well, you could get it. Oh, yeah. So you could push out in your if you went first, and then
turn 1. Then in your opponent's turn 1, you would score the points.
So you could get a potential.
No, because it says at the end of your command phase. So this one's specifically your command phase, not every command phase.
Oh, at the end of your command phase. Ooh, okay. So not a great start. In your shooting phase, each time a broken iron kin steeljax or evaluator unit from your army is selected to shoot, you can spend 1 yip. If you do, until the end of the phase, each time one in that unit makes an attack, reroll hit rolls a 1. Okay, fine. So it's basically
an easy way to spend your stuff.
Yeah, you've got stuff and you spend yip and they reroll hit rolls a 1. Tell us about one of the enhancements, Phil.
Calculated tenacity, so it's the Iron Master or Memnir Strategist model only. While the bearer's leading unit, add 1 to your OC characteristic.
Okay. Sure. I mean, useful, I guess, when you're pushing out to control objectives. You've got the Mantle of Elders. It goes on the Strategist model only, and each time the bearer's unit is selected to shoot, if you spend yip using the optimal application detachment rule, which is what we just talked about, when doing so, you can roll 1d6 on the 2, plus you gain 1 yip.
So you gain a CP back after spending it.
A yip, not a CP.
No, sorry,
a yipper.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
Any particular strat you wanted to talk about, brother?
Let's do Preventative Purge for 1 CP. It's your opponent's movement phase just after an enemy unit ends a fallback move. Oh, God. Okay. So, almost never to happen. 1 Brockir, Thunderkin, or Ironkin Steeljax unit from your army is the target. Your unit can shoot as if it were your shooting phase. When doing so, models in your unit can only target that enemy unit, and only if it is an eligible target, and you subtract 1 to the hit roll. I mean, this is one of those ones where it's like, if you don't gotcha your opponent and you tell them, oh, you're falling back, just so you know I can do this, they will probably not do it unless they absolutely have to like try and get on an objective, in which case they're like, oh, okay, fine, go for it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's used more as a threat than an actual application.
But also,
which can be powerful.
But, you know, there are certain armies that constantly have fullback and charge, right? In which case this is quite good against them, because it's like, cool, I know you're going to fall back because you want to charge back in, but I'm getting an extra turn shooting against you.
Yeah, I mean, Steeljax, just to say, they've got a toughness of 6 and a save of 2+. So they're pretty sturdy boys. 3 wounds, which, you know...
2 up save.
2 up save, yeah, and a toughness of 6. So they are 1 toughness more than the Terminator, and obviously have that. They don't have an invuln save, though.
I honestly don't know why they have a 2 up save, because they literally are basically... I know they're robots, but they're like the regular kin models, the Iron Kin models. They're just a bit bigger, which in my mind means you give them more toughness. The fact that their 4-up save of a half-kin warrior goes to a 2-up just seems insane.
They just got more places to put their... Because they're bigger, they've got more space to put their vital organs.
The half-guard, which are the Terminators, have these big, massive shoulder pads with all this like ablative armour. They've got a 2-up save. That makes sense. The fact that these guys... Yeah, I don't know.
It's a weird one, isn't it? But I'm trying to sort of understand... I mean, I guess obviously if you're stuck in combat with the... Ironkin Steeljax with melee weapons, because it is the Steeljax in this instance. Yeah, I mean, maybe you'd want to fall back from them because they're a bit of a problem, but at that point it's like...
Oh no, so so the Thunderkin and Ironkin don't need to be the things you've fallen back from. You just select them in your army to shoot at them.
Oh, okay. So fine. Because again, because it's a weird one where you're thinking like, oh, you might want to fall back from the fight with the melee ones, but it's like, oh no, shoot me with your really underwhelming pistols.
Right.
It's no. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, obviously the other unit that is applicable, the actually quite pretty unit of the Brocken Thunderkin, I mean, they seem like they've got some pretty decent shooting output, I guess. But again, durability-wise, 3-up save, 2 wounds, and feel no pains or anything. So it's like, literally, it's like, can you kill Primaris Intercessors?
Oh, T6, eh?
Mate, come on. I mean, like, literally, like, they're gonna die, aren't they? Like, I mean... I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm curious to imagine what the circumstances are where you really feel like you need to fall back from that unit. Because to be honest with you, being in a fight with them is way better than.
But you don't. You probably imagine you're in combat with the half guard, and they're the things you want to fall back from. But then these
they're nearby,
your Brocky are nearby, and then they're effectively doing like a little Overwatch shot.
Okay, yeah. No, you're fine. So, yeah, okay, the fact that it can trigger on something that wasn't in combat, fair enough. Did you read out Preventative Purge?
I did that.
You did, okay,
yeah,
fine. So, my last one was the last thing. Let's go with Wall of Steel. No, actually, no. We're going with Unwavering Accuracy because it's 2 CP, so it must be good.
Oh, okay.
It must be good. Your shooting phase. 1 Thunderkin unit, so the guys on the stilts. That has not been selected to shoot. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, you can ignore any or all modifiers to the following: the attack's ballistic skill characteristic, the hit roll, the wound roll, that attack's armor penetration characteristic. You can ignore any or all. Okay, so you can pick. So fine. So obviously you get the best of the you get the good benefits and ignore the negative benefits.
I mean, how many things actually reduce the hit roll? Like
stealth.
Oh, I guess stealth's a good one. Like you can pop smoke as well.
Yeah.
Wound roll and AP seems
there's loads of that around at the moment, though.
What, -1 AP?
Yeah, and -1 to wound.
Because I guess so. The armor of contempt is -1 AP as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that can negate some of your output.
Fair.
Cool. So we've sort of talked through detachments and all that shenanigans and fun. We have talked about a couple of units as we've gone through. May as well just sort of go back to Steeljacks just quickly, just to kind of talk about them. We've already talked about Hearthkin Warriors. We've already talked about Cavonian Berserkers. Steeljacks are the new thing. Their weapons are fine. They're all damage 1 guns with okay amounts of shots. I mean, they've got a weapon called a Heavy Vulcanite Disintegrator, which has dev wounds, but it's 6 shots, hits on 4, strength 6, -1/1 damage with dev wounds, so whatever. They've got a ability called Purge Response, so each time a unit each time you target this unit with the fire Overwatch stratagems, hits the scored an unmodified hit roll of 5+. While resolving that stratagem, if units from your army have fortified takeover, hits are scored on a modified hit roll of 4+. So that's really good.
Pretty good.
That's really good. Which again sort of then lends some weird credence to what is the advantage of using that prior stratagem we were talking about, because actually for 1 CP they're going to Overwatch on 4+, assuming you're in the right set of circumstances.
Well, you could do both, right?
Well, but weirdly though, when you're Overwatching with that ability, you're going to be hitting on 5+ because you're -1 to hit.
Yeah, but let's say you really want to kill the unit that's fallen back. You'd be like, cool, first of all, I'll do the stratagem to shoot at you that you've fallen back from, and then I'll use this ability and spend a CP for the Overwatch stratagem. So admittedly, that's like probably 3 CP in total.
Yeah.
But you get to shoot twice in your opponent's turn. Also, what's interesting is the war gear ability of the Prey Mark crest. So each time a model in this bearer's unit makes an attack that targets an enemy within range of 1 or more objective markers, a critical wound has the precision ability, which I guess sort of ties in with the some of the army-wide abilities, like, you know, you get your bonuses to shooting at things on objectives via that the default army ability.
Yeah, and again, they're melee profiles of concussion gauntlets and plasma swords. The plasma swords seem pretty underwhelming. 1 damage, AP2.
6 attacks, though.
The gauntlets, though, I mean, lethal hits mostly. Yeah, I mean, maybe you go with the swords just because the fact they've also got sustained hits 1. And their ability there is Merciless Eradication. Each time an enemy unit, excluding monsters and vehicles, that are in range of this unit's fallback, all models in that enemy unit must take a Desperate Escape test. When doing so, if that enemy unit is battle shocked, subtract 1 from the test as well. So again, yeah, I mean, 3 wounds, toughness 6, 2-up save, movement 5 is pretty underwhelming, but otherwise, I mean, they seem okay. You know, they're probably quite cheap for what they are as well. I haven't looked at the points, but my guess is they're not crazy expensive. Well, there's no point looking at the book.
They do. I mean, they do have them.
They do have. What do the books say? I mean, it'd be completely wrong. But
hold on. Where are they? Done. Oh, right. The disintegrators are 80 points for 3, and then the melee are 100 points for 3.
Yeah, so pretty cheap.
Expensive for the melee guys.
Probably the only other unit worth that I particularly want to talk about, and then we can probably have you pick out some things, and then we'll wrap it up. But Bury, Agonizers, and again...
The
Tyrannid guy. Again, profile-wise, not very many wounds, 5 wounds, but 3-up save, 4-up invuln is all shades of okay.
Toughness 6.
Toughness 6 is pretty solid, to be fair. His range weapon is a 12-inch range, 1 attack, hits on 2, strength 4, AP nothing, 1 damage weapon, so basically useless. Again,
it's the same thing I said in the previous episode.
Yeah.
Why do famous characters of 40k just have boggo standard guns, but have specifically named and super cool combat weapons? It's like, just give them a unique equivalent to a mastercrafted thing that does like 2 or 3 damage or something.
Yeah.
It just seems so strange.
It is odd, isn't it? I mean, melee weapon-wise, he wields Bane, and it comes in 2 flavours, strike and sweep. If you take it on a strike, it also has precision. Strike has 5 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 12, minus 3 damage. Good. Very good.
Wow.
Very good, to be fair. That's actually really respectable.
With precision, it's like, cool.
Yeah.
Got a Terminator character. I think this unit is just dead.
Yeah. And then sweep is 10 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 6, minus 2, 1 damage, which is actually pretty reasonable as well. He's a lone operative, which is actually really fun and characterful, so I'm there for that. Has the stealth ability, which is also really fun and characterful, and definitely helps with what he's up to. He's got grudge-fueled fortitude. The first time this model is destroyed at the end of the phase, roll a d6 on 2 plus set it up back on the battlefield as close as possible to where it was destroyed, not within engagement range. Incredibly strong.
With its full wounds remaining.
With its full 5 wounds.
Good.
Yeah, very, very strong. An unhinged vengeance in your opponent's shooting phase each time an enemy unit has shot. If this model's lost 1 or more wounds as a result of those attacks, this model can make a vengeance move. To do so, roll 1d6 and add 2 to the result. If the move, it moves a number of inches up to this result, but it must end that move as close as possible to the closest enemy unit, excluding aircraft. When doing so, it can be moved within engagement range of that enemy unit. This model cannot make a vengeance move while it is battle shocked or within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, and it can only make 1 vengeance move per phase. But
that's cool.
A blood surge, as it is known, decent is what I would say. He's legit. He's good, which is great because his model's great. An essential purchase, basically, for every Votann player.
Yeah, no, he is cool. I like the fact that he can't join a unit and he's just on his own as well.
Yeah, I like that too. I think, to be fair, 10 out of 10 for that. That mini is great, and those rules are actually really thematic and fun. You know, it's great, actually, when something gets done to a level where you're like, oh, that's actually really cool.
He is a mere 110 points, which feels like...
He probably is. He's probably, to be honest with you, he's probably cheaper than that by now, but who knows?
But that feels pretty worthwhile.
Oh, God, yeah, he's like an auto include, isn't he?
Yeah, he's true. One thing to point out, so on the next page, there's a lovely picture of some Votann. But have you noticed how badly the sort of etching on the scenery is? They've clearly cut it out of some styrene sheet and done a real hacked job at it. Terrible.
I feel for those guys, though, because I feel like they're just
probably
up against it.
To do it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, God, what we got. And again, it's who knows what kind of strain that studio team's under at the moment. I mean, the churn that Games Workshop is putting out publications right now across specialist games and core kind of Citadel, it's wild the amount of stuff they're doing at the moment. So I don't blame them. I mean, credit where credit's due. I mean, at least they tried and actually did something with like a Votann specific kind of iconography. A lot of the time in the days of Yol of old, they would have just taken
generic scenery.
Yeah, generic scenery and just been, oh, whatever, we got this lying around. Of course, they're fighting in Sector Mechanicus again. So it's actually quite nice that they're actually willing to build some custom stuff and photograph it accordingly.
Fair. In terms of other units, let's look at the Arcanist Evaluator.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's a new model. So movement 5, toughness 5, 3 up save, 4 wounds, leadership 7, 1 OC.
4 wounds, great.
Deadly demise 1, hilarious.
Oh,
so he could blow up.
The little robot lad, he's is that the surveyor? Oh no, it's the guy with the gun,
he's the Robotnik.
Oh, he is the Robotnik guy, yeah.
Yeah, so he's got the Science Guild support. So while this model is within 3 inches of one or more other friendly Leagues of Votann infantry units, excluding units with lone operative, this model has the lone operative ability.
Oh, okay, nice.
And then he's got Resource Transmutation, which I think we talked about before. So once per turn in your shooting phase, one model with this ability can use it when it is selected to shoot. If it does, spend 1 yip. And until the end of that phase, ranged weapons equipped by this model have sustained hits 1 ability. And if you shot this phase, if one or more enemy units were destroyed by those attacks, you gain 2 yip. But let's look at its weapon. Close combat weapon is just a close combat weapon, but the Transmatter Inverter, which is this crazy weapon, you can have half charge, full charge, or overcharge.
Oof.
So the half charge is rapid fire 1, 12-inch range, everything's 3 attacks, everything's hitting on 2s, everything's strength 8, but basically the AP and damage goes up by 1. So this is AP 1 damage. The full charge is rapid fire 2. Oh, so rapid fire basically goes up for each one. So half charge it's 1, full charge it's 2, but with hazardous. Overcharge is rapid fire 3, but has hazardous and the overcharge ability, which is a new thing, which is each time this bearer takes a hazardous test for this weapon, subtract 2 from the result. Oosh. Which is painful. But yeah, the range increases as well. So you go from range 12 to 18 inches to 24 inches. So at max, you can have 24-inch range, 3 shots, rapid fire 3, so 6 shots, 12 inches, strength 8, minus 3 damage. I mean, that's kind of cool. And you only need to destroy the model. If one or more units were destroyed by these attacks, you gain 2 yip. So you've got to take out a unit. But, your damage potential is potentially quite high. But you're also likely to overcharge yourself to not quite death, but near death. Because isn't it D3 damage? Or is it a flat? Is it just flat 2 damage when you fail a hazardous test?
Oh, yeah, it's D3 damage. Yeah. I think unless you're a character, in which case it's...
Should we quickly
unless it's a character, it's flat 3, I think. I think that's how
I think it is a...
Sorry, I got confused for a second.
Damage.
I thought you were talking about his deadly demise for a second. I was going to be like, no, it's deadly demise 1, but yeah. He seems fun, at least. At least they're willing to kind of do some mad stuff with him. Like, that's kind of nice. Actually, to their credit, I think there is actually some really actually quite fun little rules for some of these new characters in this thing. I'm just not mad keen on the yip system still. It's just that thing where I'm like, it's the inconsistency of it and the...
Yeah, just flat 3 mortal damage.
Yeah, because he's a character, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the yip system is one of those things where I'm just sort of struggling with it again, because you brought up the Chaos Dwarf stuff, the Hell Smiths and his shit stuff. I just think that, again, thinking about it more, I just think that system just feels a lot more easily understood just because of how they go through the theatre of kind of like distributing the points. The more I'm sort of reading the yip stuff, I'm a bit like, I'm not sure about it. But otherwise, on the whole, I mean, I don't know, you probably want to talk about one more unit before we get into the wrap-up, but I will just say before you tell me what that is, that on the whole, I actually think the League's book is kind of fun and interesting, at least. The kind of, they're not quite got the recipe right with the yield points yet, but it's kind of feels more like a step in the right direction for them. I like this a lot more than I liked their old grudge system. And I do think that actually some of the new characters and things they've added to the range give it a little something that it was lacking before. I still don't understand, by the way, and I don't know if you were going to pick it to talk about it, but the flipping... What's it called? In fact, you've got it on the page there, the Capricious
The Capricious, yeah.
What is that about?
So that's the one I was going to pick.
I assume so, because I can see it on the page.
See what it is. So this is the new mini quad bike transport.
Yeah.
Where there's a Capricious Defender and a Capricious Character. So we go through the rules for the both because they're very samey. They've got a 12-inch move, toughness 7, 4 up save, 7 wounds, leadership 7+, OC of 2. They both have Deadly Demise 1 and a scout of 9 inches. However, the carrier has a firing deck of 5, which is quite interesting. The defender has opportunistic maneuver. So in your shooting phase after this unit has shot, you can make a normal move of up to D6. If it does so until the end of that turn, you're not eligible to declare a charge because you wouldn't do that anyway, so it doesn't make a difference. And then the carrier has scanner uplinks. In your shooting phase after this model has shot, select one enemy unit, excluding monsters and vehicles, hit by one or more of those attacks until the start of your next turn. That enemy unit is suppressed.
Ooh.
While a unit is suppressed, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So, depending if you took the right detachment, you have rules for suppressed, pinned, and it wasn't
compromised or whatever it was called.
I thought it was like agitated.
Agitated.
It was something I just can't remember.
Agitated is the best way of describing
but
it.
I sort of
get off me.
I sort of feel like it was. Oh no, it wasn't that one.
Missed. Really.
Pinned and assailed.
Assailed,
and so many abilities used a word like pinned or suppressed. I sort of feel like that needs to almost be formalised and just be a core rules mechanic that things can just lean into rather than... Yeah, it's interesting that they have occasionally these made-up rules just for specific units, and it feels somewhat inconsistent, but I can see why they've done differently. So they both have a war gear option of a smoke launcher. The Capricious Defender comes into 1 or 2 models per unit, whereas the carrier has to just be 1.
Yeah.
The Defender's equipped with Magma Rail Cannon and Twin Magma Coil Autocannon and Armoured Hull. So and it can swap out one of the Magma Rail Cannons with a High Las Rotary Cannon. The Magma Rail Cannon actually looks decent. Is heavy, devastating wounds, 24 inches, 1 attack, hitting on 4s, strength 14, -4 AP, D3 plus 3 damage. So it is literally a rail cannon. And then the auto cannon version is twin linked, 24 inches, 3 attacks, hitting on 4, strength 7, -1, 2. So it's like an auto cannon. So that is your sort of carrier that's basically got an auto cannon or a super las cannon on it. And then the transport has the Magna-Coiled autocannon or a twin Magna-Coiled autocannon. And a twin Magna-Railed autocannon and an armoured hull. So you've got 2 autocannons on it, and it can take up to 5 Hernkier Jaeger models. But also, at the start of the declare battle formation step, you can select 1 Hernkier Jaeger unit from your army that has not been split, and basically you can split them into 2 units to go into transports because their transport capacity is only 5. I really do hate that the game exists around often small transports that can't actually carry the unit that they're designed, and you've got to split them off into smaller units, which is sort of a bit reminiscent from, Space Marines having combat squads, but then they completely got rid of those, but allow these units to do it. Yeah, I don't know, it seems odd.
Yeah, they've been letting the Drakari do that as well with the Venoms, so witches and warrior units only come as 10-man units, so they got around that with the same stipulations on them. I think the thing that's super interesting with this is the fact that they actually decided that the Capricious could be 2 things in one as well. I think it's a bit kind of
Oh, so that you mean that they gave it a carrier and a defender,
Yeah.
and it's not just a... Yeah, I guess...
Sort of made it into a guns platform and then a sort of light transport, which again, whatever,
Which
fine.
obviously has firing deck 5, so depending on which unit you've got, you could actually make that more shooty than the shooting one. And interestingly, the Slagittar, which is the other transport of a similar size, basically has a transport capacity of 6. Because the Capricious specifically is only the Hermkir Jaegers, so the trench coat dudes.
Yeah, and the Sagittar does have that same stipulation around units can be split.
No, that's true. And obviously it's a tougher unit with more wounds and
the Sagittar just looks cooler though as well. The Capricious is just a bit...
It fits in better with the Hexon Land Fortress as a transport. And
I just, the thing is I was a big fan of back in the day when the scale of the game was a bit different, reminiscent of like the older editions where the attack bike came into existence or the land speeder was a thing, right? There was a kind of like, again, to use marine sizing, there was like, you know, a scale to it. There was the bike, the bigger bike, or the land speeder, which was kind of in the same sort of environment as the bigger bike. And then there was the transports and the tanks, and it kind of went, up. And again, it's weird because really the Capricious is kind of in the same sort of vein as an attack bike or a or a Viper. But the thing is it's got a transport capacity to it, and that transport capacity is like 5. Which again, it's fine. Like, I don't despise it, but I just don't really understand it. It's just one of those things where it's like the model isn't great and its rules feel pretty underwhelming, and then they've tried to make it more compelling by giving it 2 different data sheets, and it's sort of like it all feels surplus requirements.
It makes sense with the Hermkir Pioneer like detachment. So they've clearly gone, we're going to lean into this sort of visual style. We're going to build a few more units so it can be a mini army in its own right, when it really should have just gone in the bin. And then they've given it a detachment as well to sort of justify its existence. And it's like, to me, it's the most underwhelming visually aspect of the army. I know you don't like Conthonian Berserkers, but I think personally they're more interesting looking, and I'd rather more models of that than the Pioneers. I
think the Conthonian Berserkers are just annoying because they're, again, it's the wasted potential. That's the thing I get frustrated about with the Berserkers. I think they, again, Troll Slayers have always been an extraordinarily cool kind of aesthetic within the kind of dwarf armies. That really iconic Troll Slayer mini with the like 2 axes flying through the air, gorgeous. The older Troll Slayer models also have some charm to them, but they're old kind of jank metal things, but still really cool. I just think that's my thing with it, where it's like when I look at the Chthonian Berserkers, I just sort of feel like it's a missed opportunity. The trenchcoat geezers are just kind of just generally bad and underwhelming.
Yeah.
But they don't offend me because I don't think they're... I just think they're really underwhelming, but I don't think they're offensively bad, whereas I think the Chthonian Berserkers are just bad on a completely separate level. But that's my own personal preferences.
I was going to say with the Capricious Defender or the other variant, it feels like... it feels like the game is constantly trying to force in these weird mini transports in a game because of the size of the maps, the fact that so many things deep strike or can deep strike. You can have an entire army of Chthonian Berserkers deep striking. Why do you need 3 different transport types, especially in a game system that is advertised for tournaments to have so much terrain in? It just feels like the game state versus what they want to sell you don't actually align well, because it's like the transports and the bikes are all quite large models, and you need space to fling them up the table and fly them around to get to places.
Yeah.
And half the time you're just hampered by the fact that the ruins are in the way. the ruins are blocking line of sight, and there's just not enough space to put these sort of things really on the table on the sort of scale that they're imagining that you could possibly take them if you want to do the Hernkir Prospector sort of detachment that's just basically all bikes and transports.
Yeah, I think it's hangovers from old editions, right? And I think where we're at with the game at the moment, like, yeah, in a lot of ways, it's probably actually not that advantageous to take lots of like transports and things. You're better off just having infantry on foot than putting them in transports. In the olden days, there were clear, obvious benefits to transports, and also the way the game worked, there were clear, obvious benefits to things like drop pods. Drop pods now have been like the most pointless. I mean, that was the thing I was amazed about more than even these things. It was like when they were like, "Oh, we've done new drop pod minis." It's like, but no one takes them. Like, I've never, ever, ever seen anyone rock a drop pod anymore. And it's like, oh, we're giving you a new mini for it. And it's like, well, figure out how to make these things work in the game. But again, it's that problem, isn't it, where the game is just very different.
Well, here's the thing. The Cathanian Berserkers can all deep strike. Why? Like, to me, it's like...
Is there not fluff associated with that? Is there not
possibly
words?
Now, I assume
they're crazy and they're getting dropped out.
Well,
or something?
maybe they're miners. I don't know. But
they're coming out of the ground. Yeah.
But my point is, and we'll read the little fluff for them. But my point is, it feels like things should only be able to deep strike when you have a visual explanation for what they would be. I can imagine I can imagine the sort of elite stormtroopers of the Astra Militarum, God, my brain's gone dead in terms of what they're called.
What, the Scions? Or
the Scions.
Yeah.
So the reason why they can disappear off the table and redeploy places is because flyers, we are imagining, are picking them up and dropping them off. Yeah. But we're not using models in game to represent this. Even though you could. But instead, that's just the army-wide rule that they can have. And it's like, that makes a logical sense as to why this is happening, and there's no visual representation for it.
I just skimmed the fluff. Basically, they've got tunnels and teleport nodes and things because they're well advanced.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So there is a reason for it, but I much prefer it when there is a physical representation of a tabletop. Space Marines can deep strike because there is a drop pod model that they are coming out of. Scions are able to jump around the board because there's literally a flyer model picking them up and dropping them off. That to me feels much more like a game, and there's a sort of a deeper connection between the rules and the lore and the story that's being told, as opposed to, oh well, these models can just disappear off and come back on, which is the uppy-downy state of the game, unfortunately. Every army seems to have this kind of ability in some level, and there's no visual representation of why this thing is doing it. Yeah,
I don't disagree with you, mate. I think that's, again, though, isn't it? It's just the way the game is at the minute, and I think you're right. Like, the transport stuff is complicated because the game now has to be played in a particular kind of way.
Which is a shame, because the picture on the back of the book looks fantastic. It's this gorgeous army-wide shot across an Eldari, like, death world, with gorgeous terrain, like, no L-shaped ruins anywhere. And it's like, to me, this is what the game should be looking like and how it should be played.
Oh, I agree. But with the way the rules work, if you've played that, I mean, obviously this is a terrible example because they've obviously weighted the imagery more in favour of the Votann. But like literally, like half that unit shoots, half that selection of Votann shoot, and all those Eldari are dead. And it's just, it's just again, it's the way they've kind of. Here's the thing: like we acknowledge and accept that 11th edition needs to make some significant changes to improve the overall kind of health of the game. The likelihood is they can't index the game again because it will cause too much of a rupture within their kind of established fan base. And, you know, people have obviously supported them across 10th edition, people like ourselves who have purchased books, etc., etc. But, look, I mean, ultimately they'll do what they think is best, but I think it's unlikely that we're going to ever really move away from things the way they are. But anyway, in terms of the Leagues of Votann, I actually think, to their credit, they've actually done something quite interesting with it as a book and put some things in there that are quite fun and interesting. It feels like an army with some interesting kind of options. I think, disappointingly, I would say that these guys feel like at the moment like the issue that Tau had for a while before they just recently did like a really nice range refresh on crew, which is when Tau were introduced, they had all this possibility. They had all these opportunities to be interesting. They were like, yeah, the Tau Empire is predominantly Tau, but it's also Kroot. It's also
Vespids and stuff.
Vespids. It's humans. It's Demiurge. It's all these different kind of Xenos and other factions kind of brought together for the greater good. And this was the idea of it. And they were going to be able to kind of explore and show you all these different ideas. Votann kind of started out with a similar thing where it's an army of many different kin and tribes and ideas all kind of brought together under this kind of, kind of central idea. And it just feels like they've gone, oh, yeah, but really it's just the same stuff over and over again. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Really, we've just boiled it down to the trenchcoat geezers, Chthonian berserkers, Hervkin warriors, and now that's your lot, really. And fine, whatever. Like, there's limits to what they can do. But, yeah, on the whole, I think it's fine. Having, Leagues of Votann feel like we're now going to be in a situation where this is them pretty much fixed for the next 10 years. We'll get another on-foot hero next edition and another on-foot hero, another edition after that. But Votann will not have any significant range additions made for probably the next 3 editions of the game.
Possibly. I mean, it feels like the range isn't that huge, but they have given us the new Hervkin Pioneers, a couple of new bike options.
Yeah, I think they're done.
They've given us like the wave 2 of stuff to flesh them out, but could they do more? Possibly. Will they? Who knows?
No, I think the reality is at the moment is GW kind of seemingly have a very kind of consistent pattern at the moment, which is, do a new army, and then if it's needing, if it's Xenos, or if it's specifically Xenos, or something like even like Sisters, where it needs like that second wave, so do it in 2 waves, and then when you get to the second wave of it, cool, move on and just do
the single character model to tide you over to make you buy a new book.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be the pattern for these guys now from here on in.
Which is a shame, because the guy with the Tyranid sort of armour is by far the most interesting model in this new range, and feels like they could put a lot more character into units or characters by leading into that.
Well, they will do, Phil, when they release single on-foot heroes for the next. Well,
here's another one daubed in an orc skull.
Yes. Yeah. And he also really doesn't like orcs as well, and whatever. It's just, it's fine. Look, I think one thing I will say is at least now they've kind of come up with an archetype for the army that makes the yield point system is at least uniquely theirs, although obviously there are other armies in other games. Yeah, but they're not. 40k players don't care about
other dwarves in other systems.
Yeah, other dwarves are available. But yeah, it's fine. I think they've landed on something halfway interesting for them. I think it needs some adaptation, but ultimately it is what it is. I think, ultimately Leagues is fine. Again, would I love to see them give us some kind of land train-esque thing that kind of adds a bit more of an awesome system to it. Like, I thought really early on when we were talking about Leagues of Votann that could have been a really interesting central theme, that they had to always have like a fortified thing that was their land train or whatever, and that arrives, and maybe sections of it, or maybe even if there was a rule built around it where they had like their support networks, and depending on what kind of carriages were on these vast vessels, determined the kind of buffs and benefits they got. But anyway, look, they've done what they've done. It is what it is. They seem fine. I could imagine that you could win games with them. I imagine that, it just feels like you're going to need loads of minis to be able to run the army, and it's probably going to cost you a small fortune to buy them. As is the way. But otherwise, I'm relatively moot on them. They seem fine. Like, they haven't offended me. They seem, and some of it actually is quite interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, the yield points is maybe a little bit more complex than it needs to be in terms of how it's spent and how you gain the points, especially depending on which detachment you take. But it is an interesting archetype. The Hellsmiths of Hashir, I think, seem slightly better constructed in terms of how it's done and implemented, but then we've only seen some of the previews, so I don't know for sure. This one seems okay. Some of the detachments are pretty cool. I sort of wish there was one that lent more into the Hearthguard, I think, which is like the exo squats. I think that would have been an interesting one, but it feels like the Pioneers and the Kuthanian Berserkers are the things that they're leaning into this time round. And the overall archetype and sort of style of the army is fine. It's not sort of what I would necessarily want from squats if I was reimagining them myself, like the key sort of archetypes that they had predominantly before was, tough, durable, had great artillery, had things like gyrocopters or equivalents before. So they don't have any flying things. They don't have any like big artillery pieces. They don't really have any like big shooty things. Like one of my favourite pieces that Squats had in the old editions was the Cyclops from Epic, which was like the Imperial Leviathan that you had, but with just one single really big barrel cannon. There was like a sort of almost like a laser destroyer. So those sorts of elements, if I was reimagining Squats to be Votann, would lean maybe more on those kind of classic archetypes. But the sort of the moon buggy NASA space vibe I don't mind too much. But the Halfkin Pioneers, just seemed a bit of a miss. But that's just me personally. But as you say, rules wise, they actually seem pretty decent. And
they seem fun.
They've got some fun elements to them for sure. Yield points maybe just a bit too confusing. But,
yeah, and I think that's it. You just want to make sure that your opponents aren't being consistently bamboozled by it. And again, it's that thing where they're like, oh, for this ability, you spend up to 4, but then for every 2 that you spend, you get a it's like, what are you on about?
Well, there were, I think it was something like Black Templars or someone. There was one of them where basically every stratagem you did one thing, but there was a way of buffing it to give you a second one. And that seems to be like the game design mechanic that they're really leaning into this edition as the codexes have come on. They're like, cool, it's not just a stratagem, it's a stratagem that you can buff to enhance to even better, which isn't terrible, but it is a bit confusing when you're doubling up on a resource mechanic or 2 different resource mechanics to implement those things. Whereas I can't remember which ones were doing it before, but it's like, maybe it's just, maybe it does need to always be a resource mechanic, or like with this, depending on which version of the army rule that you're in, whether you're in the attacky one or the defensive one, those stratagems could maybe have done different things via that mechanic, because that's a simple black and white thing. You're either in one of them or you're not. Whereas the yield points is like a resource that you got to keep track of. And it'd be interesting. I'd be interested to hear what Votann players think of this, because it is changing like how the army plays.
I think, again, it just sort of shows some of the limitations within the current system for sure. But anyway, long story short, that was that. And that was us talking about Leagues of Votann. On the whole, I'd say our consensus is, all right.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah. Pretty good. No real complaints. Artwork's actually pretty. Definitely some great potential there. And new geezer, Tyrannid bloke, tip-top. Like, if there was a shining star...
Oh, it's him for sure.
Yeah.
And obviously he's in the artwork as well. So he doubles up. He is, a gold star through and through.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, right, we're going to move on. In fact, we're not moving on because we've decided to change up the format for this episode, haven't we, Phil? So we're actually not doing a 5-star review now, we're just ending.
Oh, are we?
Yeah, that's how it goes now.
Okay, sad times.
We decided after last time we just front end the 5-star reviews again, so we do the double header. Or are we not doing that now?
Even we're transitioning. Did we decide this? I don't remember.
We agreed it with the last time we recorded.
I don't remember if we agreed it, but if you say so.
Well, it's up to you. Do you want me to transition to a 5-star review, or do you want to end? Now is the time.
Well, no, you've made our beds. We're going to bed in it. and
Fine.
I'm going to sleep.
All right, fine.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, all. Bye.
Bye.